Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law, where we learn through the misfortunes of others. As always, I'm your host, Uncivil Law, a licensed attorney in Texas, Virginia, and before the U.S. Supreme Court, and I hope you're having a great day. For today's live stream, we are doing a reaction to this morning's testimony live with you for this police officer who has reinvented physics. It's amazing. The police department has reinvented physics. I assume the Nobel Prize will be contacting him any moment relating to his nomination, relating to physics, because man, oh man, it seems we have to rewrite the textbooks. And who would have thunk it? A Massachusetts police officer was the one to do it. Which I suppose, okay, sure, why not? I mean, after all, Einstein was a patent clerk, so I suppose greatness can come from anywhere. So much like Einstein, the patent clerk, this guy is a undiscovered talent in the realm of physics, a diamond in the rough, and has been finally given the platform that will help to revolutionize the entire study of physics. I am excited. I'm excited by this. As a person with a computer science degree, which required physics, I took basic physics in college, physics 1, physics 2. So it's been a while, but hey, I remember some physics. And apparently there's exciting new physics. I'm very, very excited about this stuff. So good times. All right, so we're going to watch this revelation of new exciting physics, and we're going to do a live reaction with you. This should be exciting. I'm here for it. You're here for it. We got about an hour 40 of something to react to. Should be exciting and fun. Let's get started.
So do you hold any degrees in the scientific discipline of mathematics?
I do not.
Do you hold any degrees in the scientific discipline of physics?
I do not.
Hold any degrees in the scientific discipline of biomechanics?
No.
How about in engineering?
No.
How about in kinematics?
No.
What's the highest degree that you do hold, sir?
I have an associate's degree.
In what?
What? Okay. So our expert witness has an associate's degree, a 2-year degree. Not exactly the most promising start. Now, I will note, as a matter of law, you don't necessarily need to have any particular degree to be an expert witness because you can gain your expertise from other ways. So it isn't necessarily, strictly speaking, required to have a particular degree to be an expert witness, but you are an expert witness apparently in accident reconstruction, and you have no higher education really to speak of except community college. Great. We're off to a really, really auspicious start over here. That's fantastic news. Okay.
Administration of justice.
You mentioned kinematics on Friday. Do you hold any certificates in the specific area of kinematics?
Yes, it's covered in the basic.
That wasn't the question.
Classes.
Okay, so you took a class, in other words, correct?
Multiple classes.
You introduced the idea of what kinematics is, right?
Correct.
Testified about that on Friday.
Yes.
Define kinematics, George.
It deals with the aspect of motion.
It's a subfield of what broader field?
Kinematics.
Kinematics is a subfield of what broader discipline of science?
I'm not sure.
Physics, correct?
Yes.
And it describes how points and
I don't know what kinematics is a sub-discipline of, but I'm an expert witness. Your expertise runs deep.
Objects, systems of objects, how they move, and how the rate they move and the rate of their velocity, correct?
It deals with the motions.
What's that called? The rate of velocity. What's another word for that?
Acceleration.
The rate of velocity?
Right.
Yes, acceleration.
I mean, it deals with
It's called acceleration.
motion. It deals with forward, and also deals with speed. It deals with travel and speed.
Acceleration.
If something's moving, it also has a speed to it.
God damn
The
it.
word you're looking for is acceleration, correct?
Ding, 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 ding. Yeah. 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 It's called acceleration. Holy shit. Woo.
Sure.
What role does acceleration play in the field of kinematics?
What role does acceleration play in kinematics?
Correct.
It talks about, like you just said, it talks about the speed and talks about motion.
Is kinematics also known as the geometry of motion? Is that correct?
I have not heard that.
Never heard that. What's the difference between constrained and unconstrained motion?
Constrained and unconstrained motion.
That's what I asked.
Constrained motion. I can't recollect at the moment.
Constrained
You can't recall what constrained motion is versus unconstrained motion. You can't even take a guess at what the difference between constrained motion and unconstrained motion is. I feel like it's kind of on the label. You know, it's right there. It's right there. One is constrained, one is unconstrained. For example, by other factors that are preventing the movement. You can't even take a guess at what it means just from the terms. Exciting news. Christ. We're going to be here a long time, guys. We're going to be here a long time.
motion is motion on a predetermined path, isn't it?
Yes.
Unconstrained motion is what?
When it doesn't have a predetermined path.
Free movement, correct?
Correct.
Could you remember that from your class?
For the most part, we don't go that in depth of constrained and unconstrained.
Really?
Constrained and unconstrained, not restrained.
That's what I said. Sorry, unconstrained. Yes.
Kinematics uses algebraic formula to model these motions, right? Motions
Yeah.
of these points, systems of points, correct?
Yeah?
Yes.
And it
Correct.
includes concepts like displacement and speed, velocity, distance, acceleration, which we've talked about, correct?
Correct.
And it looks at how these things, these values vary over a point in time or duration in time. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you actually understand the physics behind the study of kinematics?
Yes.
The word you learned in class.
Yes, we had to go over the physics part of it.
Uh-huh.
On Friday, you said that this incident is a pedestrian strike from a vehicle. You reiterated that again this morning. Is that right?
Correct.
I want to be clear. That is your opinion based on your training and experience, correct?
Yes.
And on Friday, you said you based that opinion on the fact that you noted a half-mile-an-hour decrease in speed and a steering input of less than 10 degrees at some point in that reverse motion, correct?
I said that was consistent. That data point in general was consistent. It was something that you would see within data of a pedestrian strike or striking something else. I do go in my report saying I can't say that's definitely where a pedestrian was struck, but
I'm sorry, I can barely.
it wasn't definitely.
You know, just
in my report, I do say I can't.
Just out of raw curiosity, as I'm trying to work it out from the top of my head, I'm very curious what vehicle data would be inconsistent with a pedestrian strike. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, like what data would be inconsistent with a pedestrian strike that you could get from the car's data, because I'm struggling to think of anything off the top of my head where you could have something from the vehicle data that would tell you something about the speed or the input to the steering wheel or the brakes or the acceleration or any of that stuff that the car would record. I'm struggling to think off the top of my head of anything that would be inconsistent with a vehicle strike against a pedestrian. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. So my question is all data consistent with a pedestrian strike? And if so, then what are we talking about? Because there's no way to differentiate it. So that's fun. What data from a car vehicle recorder would categorically exclude a pedestrian strike? I can't think of anything.
I say that is definitively where the pedestrian struck.
You cannot say this.
Definitively, yes.
Okay, so you're going to have to slow down and speak up, okay?
All right.
Just said, I just want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly, and I apologize.
Okay.
You said
If the car was stopped. All right, fair. I suppose fair. If the car was at a complete stop at the time, that would be inconsistent. Fair. Well, even then, maybe not, because, well, it depends what we mean by stopped. But if the vehicle was truly at a motion of 0, yeah, that would be inconsistent. Okay, fair. So other than that, is there anything else? Because other than that, I'm not sure. So sure, if the car is truly at rest, that would be inconsistent. Fair point. Is there anything else?
you cannot say definitively that that resulted in a pedestrian strike.
That data point within the text stream data is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
That specific points, that time frame.
Because there's a multitude of reasons why when someone is driving in reverse, they might slow down by a half a mile an hour, right?
It's when I say when it's consistent, it's because there's the other aspects of it is the fact that the accelerator is consistently strong.
Let him answer. Finish your answer.
So the accelerator is consistent at a constant rate, and then it just drops by half a mile, and the steering wheel all of a sudden abruptly goes to the right. That's what I'm talking about when I say it is consistent with a pedestrian strike. That's something that you would see. It's not going to be a huge change of speed during this collision.
You also note that at the time, it had begun to snow, correct?
Yes.
There would be snow on the lawn, right?
Correct.
There would be snow on the cars,
Yes.
snow on the trees,
Yes.
snow on the roadway.
Yes.
Snow on the roadway could impact how tires move over the roadway, correct?
Yeah, I would think.
In a way.
In a way, yes.
And obviously, there are a multitude of reasons why somebody might input a 10-degree input on a steering wheel, correct?
Correct. That's why I said I couldn't definitely say it.
Right. So every time somebody
10 degrees isn't very much. I mean, there's 360 degrees in a circle. 10 degrees is, what, 3%? It's not exactly a huge steering movement. Yeah, okay, all right, fine, good times. It's not even, yeah, all right.
slows down, going in reverse or forward, and introduces a 10-degree input on the steering wheel, doesn't mean they're looking to hit a pedestrian, correct?
Correct.
You testified that you determined the area of impact by basically following, if I heard your testimony correctly, basically following the debris field from the body from where you believed John O'Keefe's body's final resting place was, almost linearly to the furthest.
Yeah, 10 degrees on a clock would be, because let's see, for every 5 minutes, there is 60 seconds in a minute. So there are 12 gradations. So that is what? 360 divided by 12, which is 30, right? For 5 minutes. So 10 degrees on a clock would be a third of 5 minutes, which is what? About a minute and a half, give or take, on a clock. It's not a lot. It's not a lot. Yeah.
Furthermost piece of debris that was found. Did I get that right?
Yes.
In other words, you established what in your mind, or what you were told was his final resting place. and what you were told was the debris field. And you indicated that the furthermost piece of debris would basically be the area impact, right?
It's within that line. I didn't say that is the area impact where the furthermost piece of evidence is.
Right.
It's just the linear, like you said earlier, it's that linear. We're going that path. That's the path that he traveled post-impact with the vehicle.
And that is on which that fact that you stated is on which it's a terrible question. That's the basis for your opinion of where the area of impact was, correct?
Yes.
Let's take a look at exhibit, with the court's permission, 587. It's
Yeah,
your diagram 3. If I may approach you on just for...
Okay.
Let's take a look at the diagram. This should be good.
May I approach?
Yes.
So you can see it.
Let's look at this work of fiction.
Your Honor, may we publish exhibit 587?
Yes.
Diagram 3.
Yes, here's some made-up information that we came up with because we didn't record the placement of anything.
Sir, you see diagram 3 on the board.
How this diagram is being allowed into evidence is beyond me, because none of this information was recorded by the people who, collected it. So how this diagram is being offered is beyond me at this point. It's a work of fiction. Okay. All right, fine.
Also have it in front of you, correct?
Yes.
It's easier for you to refer to what's in front of you because that's a little bit further away. Just let me know.
Okay.
The red arrows adjacent to the blue writing, where I'm highlighting right now, indicate basically the debris field that you explained to the jurors on Friday, correct?
Yes.
And then there's a point of an arrow that comes back to a wording that says pedestrian's final rest, basically right there, correct?
Yes.
And the debris field ends right in the middle of that spotlight, correct?
Yes.
All right. So that's the area of impact that you indicated to Mr. Lally you believe occurred because of the debris field and the linear portion of that debris field going from the pedestrian's final rest all the way out to that final little red arrow that says red plastic B in parentheses, correct?
Yes.
Donna, can we have exhibit 492 published to the juror, please?
Okay.
Approach.
Yes.
While that's coming up, have you ever seen this?
No, I haven't.
Take a look just above the arrow. Your Honor, with the court's permission, maybe highlight or magnify the area just above the arrow.
Okay.
You see that?
Yes, I do.
Right underneath fire hydrant, correct?
Correct.
What does that look like to you?
Piece of plastic.
It's debris, correct?
Correct.
All right. Can we go back with the court's permission to exhibit 87,
Okay.
diagram 3? You see the fire hydrant?
Yep,
Yes.
I do.
Fire hydrant's right there, correct?
Yep.
Correct.
That's another, according to your scale, that's probably a good 30 feet from the pedestrian's final rest, correct?
Yeah, that's about right.
That is the furthermost, in this diagram, the furthermost piece of debris on the diagram, correct?
Correct.
So now, your testimony changed that this, in fact, is the area of impact.
No,
Why not?
because it's just a piece of debris. I'm talking about the path. You follow the path of debris field. Debris can move and change.
The debris doesn't fly backward, does it?
I'm saying You pointed to like just the fire hydrant as the area impact where the debris, where that one piece of plastic was, saying that's the area impact is right next to the fire hydrant.
Are you asking me a question?
Yeah, that's what you said, right?
I'm asking you,
I'm making sure I'm understanding what you're saying so I can answer the right.
Ask the question again, Mr. Jackson.
in fact, you indicated on Friday that your analysis of the area of impact was predicated on, based on, the furthermost piece of debris from the pedestrian's body that you were aware of, which is right there. Red plastic B, correct?
I said well, I said you said earlier with the linear equation. I mean, it might have moved it over more, but it's the debris, the start of that debris, and where that is. I can't say that's definitely the point of area impact or the point of impact. I cannot say that is the point of impact right there. You just kind of follow the linear path because they have to follow in a direct path that way.
Okay, so now your testimony is that's not the area of impact.
I never said that was the area impact. I said it's after that.
Trooper, we were all here on Friday.
Okay.
That's exactly what you said under questioning by Mr. Lally, wasn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
Didn't you say on Friday that you determined the area of impact for Mr. O'Keefe, the point of impact, was red plastic B because that was the furthermost piece of debris you were aware of from the final point of rest from Mr. O'Keefe's body? Isn't that what you said?
I don't believe that's my exact words.
Okay, I'm not asking if it was your exact words. I don't have a transcript of it. I'm asking you, is that what you tried to impart to the jurors?
What I said to the jury, I said after that. That's the start of, that's the last point of evidence that I had. I said the area impact is probably along the roadway after that point. I mean, like before it, after you walk towards him.
I'm sorry, I keep doing that because I think you're done. Are you done?
I am done now, sir.
Now you're aware that there's a piece of debris, looks like taillight material, right under the fire hydrant, correct?
Correct.
If the area of impact, which you indicated on Friday, was where this red plastic B is, you would be wrong, right? Your analysis would be flawed.
No, because that's not what I said. I said it's along the roadway, and it's going to be after that point.
Okay, so is the area of impact now where the fire hydrant is?
Objection.
Ask it differently.
Are you now indicating, because now you realize that there's a piece of debris directly under the fire hydrant, are you now indicating that that's the area of impact where John O'Keefe's body was struck?
Objection.
Sustained.
Let's take a look at.
Yeah, I mean, it's the problem is it changed the assumptions on which he was working, because apparently he had said that his assumptions were based on where the furthest piece of plastic was relative to the body. That was an assumption of his conclusions. And now it's like, hey, I found a piece further away. It's like, well, that doesn't change my findings. It's like, but it was a built-in assumption, and you haven't shown your work for how this doesn't change that, right? So you haven't shown like why, having discovered this, that changed the assumption, why it still fault flows. You're just saying, well, it still flows. Of course it does. It's like, no, it was an assumption of what you made. You have to kind of show your work why the change of fact doesn't matter, and you haven't shown your work. You're just expecting us to take your word for it or something, even though it changes the assumption based on which you were working from. It's like, yeah, okay, good times. And of course, always, other than the piece next to the fire hydrant, which we actually have a photograph for, none of these other pieces do we have actual documentation for. So his assumption of where the furthest piece of plastic was is a double assumption, because one, it assumed it was the furthest piece of plastic, and two, it assumed where it was because it wasn't documented during the search. So his reconstructions are built based on quite a lot of assumptions with his associate degree. Yeah, I'm not necessarily sure that I feel confident that he has the level of expertise required to deal with all these assumptions. That seems problematic to me.
exhibit, with the court's permission, 279.
Okay.
Taking a look at exhibit 279, I want to draw your attention to that piece right there, okay, of plastic. You see it?
Yes.
You describe it for me. Just physically, what does that look like?
It looks like clear plastic with a little bit of red and black on the top part.
Okay, maybe in a triangular shape, is that fair?
Correct.
Okay. Now, if we could go back to, with the court's permission, exhibit 492.
Okay.
If we could highlight just above the ruler. How would you describe that piece of material?
It looks like the same piece.
Based on that, does that appear to be part of the taillight material that was found at the scene?
Correct.
Okay. Now, based on that, are you now suggesting, if we could go with the court's permission, if we could go back to 587, I'll stop jumping around just a second. I think we
Okay.
just get back to 587. Oh, sorry, the diagram for space. There we go. Now, seeing what you just now seen in terms of that piece of plastic that appears to be from the taillight, does that appear to be under the fire hydrant, which is highlighted? Same piece?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Based on that, does that change your opinion? Is that now, the fire hydrant now, the point of impact?
No.
Where's the point of impact now?
It's along the roadway. I don't know the exact point of impact.
So you don't know the area of impact?
I said the area impact is along the roadway after the debris.
Okay.
I mean, only thing it would change is maybe it was a little further away. But besides that, it's a linear field. I'm not talking about like one point. You kind of follow the middle of the debris field, and that should be the path.
Well,
He's reasoning by scatter plot. That's fun. Yeah, we found, well, first of all, that would require you to know where the pieces are to even be able to do that in the first place, right? So if you knew exactly where the pieces were, then you could try to draw a line that averages them out, as you might do in a scatter plot, and be like, well, this is essentially the average. But first of all, that's a very weird thing to do, kind of. And second of all, it would require you to know exactly where the pieces are in order to be able to draw the line. If you don't know where the pieces are, you can't draw the average line in the scatter plot. And he doesn't know exactly where they were because they weren't documented. So first of all, I'm not sure scatter plot is the way to go. Second of all, even if it was, he doesn't know where the pieces are in order to draw the scatter plot. So how can he say what's linear or not? Because how can he draw the line if he doesn't know where the pieces are? Okay, that's fine. Sure, no problem.
if the point of impact is along the roadway, where along the roadway, if you can show the jurors, where along the roadway, in your expert opinion, was the point of impact?
It should be within, if you follow from pedestrians, find a rest here, just kind of follow back. That's what I'm talking about, linear field.
So now you've indicated an area, I can follow your laser pointer, an area along here, correct?
Yes, somewhere in there.
All right, if I have my spotlight, is that, if I leave it right there, is that about where the middle of the spotlight, about where you believe the area of impact is?
It's within, I guess you can say it's within that area. I don't know definitely, there's nothing on the roadway that has a definitive point that says this is the area impact right here. It's within the roadway based on the evidence at the scene.
Okay. Mr. Paul, sorry, Trooper Paul, I'm asking you, based on your expert opinion and your conclusions, based on your full analysis, can you point me to within an area of 5 feet or so on the roadway where you believe the area of impact is? Is my spotlight basically highlighting the area that you believe, in your opinion, is the area of impact?
You have that laser pointer?
I do.
Why don't we let him show you? It'd be easier for the jury to see.
So what I'm trying to say is, so we follow the linear path back around this area.
Okay, can you?
And sorry, I'm trying to keep it straight as much as I can. Follow back to here. I can't say like if this definitely is, but it's possibly based on also vehicle damage to the back of the vehicle. So if you follow all the way back to here, that could be a possible area impact.
So
Possible.
when you say that area there, just I want to be very clear for the record that what you highlighted is an area basically just to the left of an X that's on the roadway, on the bottom of diagram 3, toward the lower part of diagram 3.
It's
Correct?
you would use your circle almost to kind of be a good area around.
Sorry, you need to.
You can use a circle around here. This would be around the area.
Okay.
Okay.
So using your scale, that scale is going from full left to full right. It's plus or minus 40 feet, right?
Switch. Can't see it.
1 inch is 10
Say
feet.
again. Say the question.
That scale is 40 feet, going full left, full right, 40 feet.
It's 40 feet. It's a 10-foot scale.
Okay, sorry, 20 feet. My mistake.
I was okay.
I was terrible. 20 feet. Thank you. All right, so if you use that scale, can you estimate for the jurors? I'm just going to use this X as a starting point. You estimate for the jurors from this X that I've highlighted to the pedestrian's final rest. What's that number? Doesn't have to be exact. Give me an estimate.
So, I mean, it could be within 30 feet because I tell you this. Also on my scale, this 2 and 3 is 50 feet from each other.
Is how much?
50.
Okay.
5-0.
50.
So would you agree that from this X down here to pedestrian's final rest, that's a crow flies, that's probably a good 35, 40 feet.
I mean, I could try to use the scale. With me as a scale.
If you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, why not actually break out the scale? It
Yes,
tells you
please.
exactly what it is. That'd be good. It's right there on the thing to be used. That's what it's there for.
Permission?
Okay.
Why don't you measure how many inches it is and multiply by 10? That'd be great. How many inches? Times 10. That's the number of feet. That's the scale.
You need a pen?
Yeah.
That one, thank you.
Break out a compass or something. I don't know, man. All you have to do is measure the number of inches, guy. It's right there on the thing. I read it myself. You just have to get a ruler and measure the number of inches. That's all you have to do. It's really easy. It's right there.
It's a little around. It's approximately 30 feet.
Or approximately 30 feet.
Yes.
Okay. Can you place, with the court's permission, can you estimate 30 feet in here?
Can I estimate?
Can you point to a place in the courtroom that looks like it's 30 feet from you?
Objection.
No. Next question.
Does the court have a diagram of a diagram of distances?
In this courtroom? No.
You indicated just now, and I'm finished with this. Thank you. Thanks. You indicated just now in answer to Mr. Lowry's last couple of questions that in your expert opinion, when the SUV struck pedestrian John O'Keefe, he was, quote, projected forward and to the left to the front yard to his final place of rest.
Yes.
So your expert testimony is that John O'Keefe was hit with the SUV and flew 30 feet.
Projected mean like I don't say he flew all the way there. He was projected in that way. He got pushed forward in that direction.
Which he was rendered incapacitated, landed there, had to sort of fly there, right? Didn't walk there.
I mean, would you definitely flying like literally off the ground the whole entire time, or?
Well, you tell me, you're the expert.
I mean, he got, when we say projected, we mean he gets projected, and they usually have a landing phase, and they land, and they either roll or tumble to final rest.
Okay, how far do you think he landed? How far was it until he landed of that 30 feet?
I don't know. There's no indication of where his exact landing spot was.
Right. Was there any evidence whatsoever that he landed and rolled?
And there was no evidence that he landed or rolled. Or no, rolled.
According to you, the evidence that you have in front of you is that you get hit, fly 30 feet,
Yeah.
land where he ended up in his final rest, right?
Objection.
Sustained. Ask.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So there's no indication that the body rolled like down a hill. And the theory of the state is that he was incapacitated from the hits. So he can't have walked. It's not that he was, it's not that he was initially like mobile, but then succumbed to his injury, right? That could be a scenario, right? You're hit with a car, some other object, but you're not immediately capacitated, right? You just have enough, adrenaline or whatever going through your body that you're able to walk some distance. And depending on the circumstances, that could even be a very delayed reaction, depending on the situation, right? Because you could even have an impact, for example, just to break out a hypothetical, you could even have an impact that doesn't seem to have any immediate impact, but leads to a problem like an embolism or something like that is caused, essentially by the collision. So you might be able to walk, for a day or something, I don't know, and then succumb to your injury. So that's like a hypothetical that could happen. But that isn't what the state says happened. The state doesn't say, okay, look, initially he seemed fine. He was able to walk around like normal, but then, a day later, a week later, a month later, he succumbed to the injury because, for example, an embolism happened or something, right? They don't say that. Right? Or they don't say, look, he was essentially incapacitated, but he had a couple moments there before he succumbed to his injury and, was able to walk a little bit. And so he walked 10 feet and that's where he collapsed. No, that's not the theory of the state. The theory of the state is he was incapacitated from the moment of impact. That is their theory. Okay. So let's go with that. So that means that the distance between where the car hit him and where the body landed, because there's no evidence of rolling, right? Every inch of that must be due solely to the car, because it can't be due to anything else. It's not due to him walking. It's not due to him, moving. It's not due to him rolling. It's all due to the car. So he moved 30 feet from this collision at 25 miles an hour. That doesn't seem very realistic. That a pedestrian being hit by a car at 25 miles an hour would be moved 30 feet via the impact of the car. That does not seem like a plausible thing to me. But what do I know? I don't have an associate's degree in kinematics like this guy. So maybe he knows more than me. I don't know, man. I'm having doubts.
It differently.
Based on your expert opinion, you believe that he was projected through the air to his final rest place.
That's not what I'm saying.
But you said there's no evidence that he rolled.
And there's no evidence that he flew through the air either.
Well, no, that would be like, that doesn't quite work, because there's only so many possibilities here. And really, fundamentally, there's only kind of two possibilities, really. Either like he moved from the car to where he is without touching the ground, right? So that he was projected without touching the ground at all, in which case flew seems like a reasonable description of that. Or he was touching the ground at some point, even if he didn't roll, right? He was essentially scraping the ground from his ragdoll doll-like body at some point. So he's touching the ground. So either sort of he flew, or there would be evidence on the ground from the scraping, from the friction, from his body having an impact point somewhere on the ground, but there's no impact point anywhere on the ground. None was seen. So this is a, if you exclude all the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth kind of thing, right? If there's no evidence that he scraped the ground, if there's no evidence of any contact with the ground, then the conclusion must be he flew. Because there's not a lot of possibilities, man. It's got to be one of the two.
Objection.
Sustained.
You said on Friday that in your experience, people tend to lose objects that are not strapped to them. Is that right?
Yes.
In other words, get hit by something.
Really, Steve? You really think that at 27 miles an hour, a vehicle would throw a pedestrian 30 feet? Really? I don't know, man. I have my doubts. I have my doubts. I don't, that doesn't sound right to me, but okay.
Car, truck, bus, whatever, train. And if you have something in your hand, boom, you lose it, you drop it. If it's not strapped to you, correct?
Correct.
How do you suppose that Mr. O'Keefe, in your opinion, held on to that glass cup that was found right next to him over the course of 30 feet being projected?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Do you have a theory on that?
I don't know. I mean, it just could have been with him the whole way. I don't know. I wasn't there, so I don't know how the glass stayed with his body and went with him to the final rest.
So it's just common sense. You have to believe that it was in his hand. He held on to it the entire time it was being projected 30 feet, right?
It could have been in his hand. It could have been tucked next to his clothing. Could
Did you say tucked in?
I mean, could have been next to his body. So when he projected, maybe the glass was with his body as it was also flying. So there's a number of reasons why the glass, because it also got projected with the body while he was holding it.
I thought you said on Friday, and you disagreed with me, that people drop things and they're hit.
Usually.
Yes, not everything it tends to fly off. I mean, some stuff flies off, some stuff will stay on.
I see.
It's not uncommon to find.
Yeah, Tony, we only need the kinetic coefficient of friction from sliding across the snowy lawn if he touched the ground. But there's no evidence of him touching the ground. That's the problem. So we don't need the kinetic coefficient because, well, there's no evidence of him touching the ground because there's no marks, no rolling, no walking, no dragging. There's no sign of him. There's no sign of him touching the snow. So we don't need the kinetic coefficient because, well, there's no indication that he touched the ground. So don't need that information, I guess. Good times.
Piece of clothing and stuff, that you find at the scene.
Piece of clothing?
Like clothing, like shoes, like shoes and stuff like that to come off the body during a pedestrian crash.
Well, that's not what I asked.
I know, I'm just saying, you asked me, you said I'm just responding to what you said. And trying to make sure you understand what I'm saying.
No, I don't, but I'll ask another question. Shoes are strapped on by definition, right?
Yes, but it's very common for shoes to come off.
How about a cell phone?
Cell phone, yeah. Yeah, it depends on where it is.
It was under his body.
Okay.
How do you account for that? He held onto a cell phone with one hand and held onto a cup with the other.
Objection.
Sustained. Ask it differently.
If the cell phone was found under his torso, under his body, what's your theory on how that cell phone ended up flying 30 feet with him?
It just did.
Just did. And somehow, as he landed, tucked that cell phone.
It just did is definitely the answer you want from your accident reconstructionist. What is your theory for how the cell phone landed under his body? It just did. That's fantastic. That's really good news. That's really good news. It just happened. Don't question it. I'm the expert, man. How am I supposed to know? Lol.
Underneath his body, so he landed on top of it.
It just did. That's the evidence at the scene. I didn't put the evidence there. So.
Well, you didn't.
All right, so jurors, I've told you before, lawyers cannot make comments, so disregard it. Mr. Jackson, don't do it again.
I understand. So
You understand, but don't do it. Your answer is always, I understand. Don't do it.
Yes, Your Honor. Cell phone in one hand, cup in the other hand, flew through the air. Right?
Objection.
Sustained.
You were informed of this incident on January 29th, 2022 at about 2:30 in the afternoon. Is that right?
Yes.
At the time, you were working out of the CARS facility, which is located on West Grove Street in Middleborough. Is that right?
Yes.
By the way, that's a facility that has multiple garages. Sally ports, I don't know if they're called Sally ports, but garage bays, correct?
The mechanic shop are there.
The mechanic shop
Yes.
is, if you're going to review, for instance, for purposes of reconstruction, if you're going to review a vehicle, is the vehicle placed in those mechanics bays?
No, not there. That's for state police vehicles.
Okay, so where are the mechanics bays, sorry, reverse that. Where are the Sally ports where you do your analysis, your reconstruction, your review of the vehicle, inspections, things of that nature?
We don't have Sally ports for that.
You don't have anything dedicated to that?
No, the only time we would use a Sally port is the crime scene would have some Sally ports that they would do to document their crime scene stuff. And I've gone there, they've done my inspections, but most of our inspections are done either at the tow yard or some type of facility for that.
Ultimately, was this SUV ever taken to the Middleborough facility?
Yes, it was.
Where was it placed?
There's a fenced-in area inside it's a fenced-in area
Is it outside or inside?
outside.
Okay. Did it remain outside in that fenced-in area the whole time?
I don't know the exact time. It was there for a while, then it got moved.
Where did it get moved to?
I'm not sure exactly where they moved it immediately after it left Middleborough.
Are you familiar with the Foxborough location at MSD?
Yes.
That have Sally ports or bays for inspection and evaluation?
It has garages in it, but we wouldn't use them. We don't normally use those garages for inspections.
Is it possible to use those garages for inspections?
It is possible.
Okay. It's happened before, correct?
I've not used the inspection in the garages.
But it's,
I'm going to ask you to keep your voice up and
Sorry,
speak
yes.
slowly.
but you know they could be used.
Sorry.
You know that those bays could be used for inspections or analysis or evaluation if needed, correct?
Yes.
All right. Given the fact that the SUV that was being seized on January 29th was being seized as potential evidence, best practices would suggest that you want to get it in and out of the bad weather, the inclement weather, as quickly as possible, correct? You wouldn't want to subject it to continued forces from nature like rain, wind, snow, sleet, hail.
I mean, I think.
That would be beneficial, yes.
All right. You're aware that the Foxborough location and the Middleborough location with the
By the way, just for the 400 of you who are here, I wanted to check with you. I upped the gain a little bit on my microphone because people were saying it was soft. So I upped the gain a little bit, and I just wanted to make sure that like it wasn't bad or clipping or anything, and you guys were happy. Actually, I'm still like unsure why it still seems a little low to me, but yeah, I'm not sure about that, but I can project more. But I always want to check these things.
mechanics bays are all closer to Dighton than Canton, right?
Both Foxborough and
Foxborough and Middleborough are both closer to Dighton than Canton. In other words, you have to pass by, depending on which way you go, pass by Middleborough, pass by Foxborough to get to Canton.
So from where?
From Dighton, sorry.
So from Dighton.
Where the vehicle was seized, and
Yeah.
all going toward Canton, you pass by either Middleborough or Foxborough to get to Canton. Right?
I don't believe you'd pass by Middleborough to get to Canton, but you've passed by Foxborough.
All right. The car was not taken to Foxborough, was it?
No.
As a matter of fact, the car was taken basically double the distance all the way to Canton to that Sally Port, correct?
Objection.
Do you know that? Is that double the distance?
I don't know the exact distance. I know it was in Canton.
And you know it's fine to Canton.
From Dighton, yes.
Right. And you're also aware that, because you've been to the scene, assuming, correct, the 34 Fairview,
Yes. Yes, I have.
and you've been to Canton PD,
Yes, I have.
you know that those two locations are about 3-4 minutes apart.
Yeah, I can say that.
When you started your Let me ask this a little bit different way. Before you began any review on this case, any physical review on this case or analysis on the case, you were told that there had been a crash, correct?
Yes.
You testified to that at the state court grand jury in this matter. Is that right? That you've been told in advance this was a vehicle pedestrian crash, and you were asked to analyze it, right?
Yes.
You wrote in your report that it was a single vehicle collision involving a pedestrian, and you were, quote, assigned to reconstruct that collision, correct?
Yes.
So when you began your analysis, Trooper Paul, you were told conclusively by the lead investigator, Michael Proctor, that the deceased was hit by a car, and your job was to reconstruct it. Is that right?
Objection.
Okay, so there are lots of parts to that. Break it down.
Sure. Were you told by Michael Proctor to reconstruct this incident?
Objection.
So were you told that by Trooper Proctor?
I was not.
Okay, next question.
Sure. Who were you told, who were you given your instructions by
Instructions for what?
to reconstruct this incident?
I wasn't given instructions to reconstruct it. It's just I was assigned to it.
Right.
That was requested. My assistance was requested to reconstruct it.
That's my question. Who assigned you to it?
I talked to my sergeant at the time who gave me the phone call.
And you were told some basics about that reconstruction, the event that you were asked to reconstruct, correct?
Yes.
The information that you were told came from the case officer. Is that right?
Who's the case officer?
The information that this was a pedestrian vehicle incident, as opposed to motor vehicle incident, pedestrian bicycle, motor vehicle motorcycle. You were told it was a motor vehicle pedestrian incident that you were asked to reconstruct, correct?
Yeah, I was told that, yes.
All right, and you had to be given some basic parameters of what that incident, how that incident occurred. The car was going in reverse, it's got a damaged taillight, things like that.
Some basic stuff, yeah.
What I'm asking is, I'm trying to get to is, who gave you that information? Where'd it come from?
That the car was traveling in reverse. Like, which part of the information? You asked me about several different things just now.
Were you given information from multiple sources? Or did someone give you a summary of what you were being asked to do? At the very beginning,
Yep.
who gave you the summary?
Summary of the whole entire, of what?
Of the event that you were asked to reconstruct?
I was passed down when I got to the garage. That there was no way they sat there and gave me the summary, like, that I can remember. I was told that it was a pedestrian crash. I knew it was a Boston police officer involved, that this was the vehicle, and that it was traveling in reverse. That's all they had.
Okay.
But he doesn't know who told him. He doesn't know who told him. So it's basically gossip, I guess, which sounds perfectly fine for a police investigation. He's not quite sure where the information's coming from. But he hears it in the wind about these critical facts. I know, okay. Sure. I mean, that's cool and normal. Yeah, again, it's more about the chain of custody, chain of information. It's like, I don't know who I heard it from. I don't know when. Not sure who gave me that information. So it's just emblematic of problems in chain of custody logs in a more general sense. It's more emblematic of sloppy records and sloppy procedures, and not having things documented in a way that makes things understandable. So yeah, heard it through the grapevine, indeed, my friend. Heard it through the grapevine, indeed. 100%. You better believe it. Good.
What I'm asking is, that's great. Thank you for the summary. Who gave you that summary?
I don't know if it was definitely anybody from the get-go that was like I talked to.
From where?
I don't know if it's anybody that I could definitely say that was the person. There was multiple people going around when I got there. I think I talked to Trooper Zach Clark. He was doing the crime scene. I think he was Zach Clark. He was the crime scene photos at the time. I knew him from past crashes. He just said this is the vehicle, and I think he kind of gave me a little bit of a lowdown on what the vehicle was.
Okay.
So
My question is this, when you got that, did you call it a lowdown? He gave you the lowdown?
He gave me information, yes.
Right. When you got the lowdown, you were told
The lowdown.
Boston police officer was involved, the vehicle pedestrian incident, car was going in reverse, ultimately led to the death of the pedestrian. Struck the pedestrian in reverse, correct?
Correct.
All right. And you were assigned specifically to try to reconstruct that incident.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of the phrase confirmation bias?
I know the phrase, yes.
You know what it means?
I can't definitely say what it means.
Develop
Let me make sure I understand this. You are the accident reconstruction expert with your associate degree, and you can't provide a colloquial definition of what confirmation bias is, which once again, it's on the label. It's on the label. Just listen to the words and it will tell you exactly what it is. Just listen and you'll know the answer. But he doesn't know the answer with his associate degree level training. Fun. Just listen. Just listen and you'll know the answer. It's right there, man.
developing a conclusion and then trying to find evidence to fit that conclusion. Does that sound right?
If you say so.
What? So even having the definition provided to you, you can't be like, oh yeah, that's the definition. You're just like, well, if you say so. Who's the expert in the room now? When the attorney is more of an expert than the witness, you got a problem, man. You got a problem. Woo!
You noted in your direct examination that there were scratches on the passenger side rear bumper of the Lexus, correct?
Yes.
How exactly were you able to scientifically determine that any of those scratches were from an incident on January 29th, 2022, as opposed to any other time?
I didn't have anything else on the time. Is that those scratches happened prior to this collision?
I'm sorry.
I didn't have any information that those scratches were caused from a prior collision. And so when I looked at the evidence, I knew it was in that same area, the right rear tail light. So when I looked at it, it didn't quite fit the pedestrian thing. So when you showed me the video, or I saw the video like a year ago on Court TV, I said that could be.
You asked the question, so next, keep going. He's answering. Next question. Then
Yes,
go
how
ahead.
scientific
Hold on.
thought the scratches were.
Hold on. Ask a question, Mr. Jackson.
You know what normal wear and tear on a vehicle is, right?
Yes.
Bumpers get scratched myriad ways, correct?
Correct.
Get scratched in a grocery store parking lot, right?
Yes.
Shopping cart can bounce off the back of the car and scratch the bumper, scratch the side of the car, quarter panel or something, right?
Sure.
I mean, I don't want to go through it, but there's thousands and thousands and thousands of ways that a car can get a scratch, correct?
Correct.
My question is, do you, as you sit here, do you have any scientific evidence that those scratches occurred on January 29th at approximately 12:45 a.m.?
What do you mean by scientific evidence?
What do you mean? What do you mean by scientific evidence? What kind of question is that? Aren't you the reconstruction expert and should have some sort of working definition of what scientific evidence might comprise of? But you're not sure what scientific evidence is. I honestly don't know how this guy qualifies as an expert legally. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. There are minimum standards for this in law. You have to show that you have sufficient knowledge and sufficient training, and or I suppose, to be able to offer an expert opinion. And how does this guy meet the test legally to be able to be here and present an opinion if he doesn't even know what scientific evidence is? Okay.
Well, do you have any evidence whatsoever that you can point to that those scratches occurred on that date and at that time rather than any other time in the history of that vehicle?
Like I said earlier, the video seems to appear that's what it looks like that could have been from.
Well, you said on Friday, let's talk about those scratches for a second.
Okay.
When you testified Friday, you were pretty clear. You said that, if I can find it exactly. Let me have just a moment, Your Honor.
Sure.
At this point, I'm reasonably confident that we could do better with a, reasonably well-performing high school student in physics. Or, this is one of those times when it's like, are you smarter than a fifth grader? Because I'm not quite sure. Between this guy and, let's say, someone in the top 10% of their class who's taken high school physics, I don't know, man. I might take the high schooler. This is rough. This is rough.
You said, quote, the dent and scratches for his hand could be, those are consistent with striking the Lexus. Remember saying that?
Yes, on the tailgate.
Okay, so the dent and scratches you talked about on Friday, you said were from his hand.
Yes, hand in the glass cup.
Okay. Then are those the same scratches you're talking about in terms of the bumper?
No.
So.
What are you talking about, the scratch inside the bumper that we've been talking about?
Correct.
Okay,
That's what I'm
no.
talking about. Okay. Is there any way to scientifically date a scratch?
No.
No.
If you go out in the parking lot right now, even as an accident reconstructionist, if you walk out in the parking lot right now and look at a Toyota Camry sitting there, it's got a scratch on it. There's no analysis that you could engage in to date that scratch, could you?
Objection.
So you can ask it differently, Mr. Jackson.
Is there any way that you could, in general, look at a scratch and say, that scratch is from such and such date?
Objection.
I'll allow
Nothing
it.
more.
I'll allow it.
You cannot say. You can look at evidence and shows that it may have been older than what the newer evidence would be, but there's no way to say that specific date and time and that a scratch would come from.
Right. And it's possible that any or all of those scratches on the Lexus could have predated January 29th, correct?
No.
If that's not possible.
The ones that are on from the taillight and the other parts of it?
Scratches anywhere on the car.
Depends on what you got to pick the other scratches. You got to show me other scratches on the car.
I'm saying it's possible, since you can't date a scratch, it's possible that any or all of those scratches could predate January 29th. It's a simple question, right? It's possible.
You're being pretty broad on your scratches here.
I'm not.
Okay, no, look, guys, this is logical deduction 101. This is formal logic. This is formal logic, formal deduction 101. It's not hard. Okay? If you can't date scratches, then you can't conclusively determine any of the scratches are necessarily from after date X. That is just a necessary logic flow. If you can't date scratches, premise, it must be true that you can't tell for a certainty that a particular scratch must be after a particular date. That is just straight, no nonsense, formal logic, formal deduction. We can break out the fancy fancy markings. We can do the U and the upside down U and all those wonderful fancy with the Z and all that shit. We can do this in straight formal logic. We can do this in math. QED. And he's like, well, it depends. You're being pretty broad about scratches. No, I'm not. The premise is you can't date scratches. That is a universal declarative. I am not being broad about scratches. You're being broad about scratches, and I'm just holding you to a necessary logical deduction. This guy probably has not taken a formal logic class. I did. It was one of my favorite classes in college, incidentally. I really enjoyed it. I took a formal logic class. This guy could probably benefit from it. Would help him with the thinking. All right, good times.
Let me ask it a different way. Let me ask it again. Is it possible that any or all of the scratches noted on that car predate January 29th?
Yes.
Any and all of the scratches?
Yes.
See, that's what I'm saying. You're being pretty broad. Any and all.
No, he's not. No, he's not being broad. The rule is universal. Therefore, the conclusion is universal. Damn it.
All scratches on the car
Answer that question.
that it predate.
Objection.
I don't know every single scratch on that car. I could mean,
Overruled. So can you answer that question?
no.
Testify that you noted glass on the rear bumper of the SUV, correct?
Yes.
And you said something about that glass coming from the cup.
Correct.
You also said that you did not see anything on that SUV that could be the source of those glass pieces on the bumper, right?
Yes.
When you did your reconstruction and your analysis, were you informed that none of the glass pieces, not one of them, could be matched to the cup?
I don't know anything about I don't know that.
So if you knew that the glass pieces on the bumper do not match the cup, that change your opinion
Objection.
about that glass?
Can you answer that question?
I cannot.
I mean, you should be able to. You should be able to answer the question, right? If you knew that none of the glass pieces on the bumper were from the glass, then that would change a presumption in your analysis, which incidentally, you probably shouldn't have had the presumption in the first place, but never mind. But if you later learned, oh, gee, none of those glass pieces are from that glass, I would think that would change it. And you would know, yeah, that would change my thinking because it changes a presumption that I was working from. What a silly presumption that was. Now that I know that, I would think it would, yes, you should be able to know that because you're an expert. Remember? You're an expert. So you should be able to know that, yes, if it changes a fundamental premise, it probably would influence your analysis. The end conclusion may or may not be the same in the end, but you would know that it would influence your analysis and you'd have to think about it differently because that's just how that would work. But you don't know that somehow. And you're the expert. Okay.
You can't answer the question.
It's what was told to me as evidence
It was told to you.
By whom?
by the crime scene.
Aren't you the expert? Shouldn't you verify that?
As crime scene that was there, it says this glass from the cup. When When I did my initial inspection, that's what it was on from.
That's not what you just said. You said that's what was told to me.
Yeah, by crime. Yeah, like I said, by crime scene. While I was at my inspection,
Wait, what?
it was told to me by the crime scene when I was at my inspection, at the initial inspection.
So what you meant by that's what was told to me is the crime scene talked to you.
Yes.
Crime scene say anything else?
I don't know what else.
Shelly Babe in chat. Shelly Babes in chat says it gets worse with the next witness. Okay, here's what I'm going to need you to do. I'm going to need you to lie to me. Okay, I'm going to need you to tell me, no, everything is great. The next witness is sane. You know, it doesn't really change my mind necessarily, but at least they put on a good witness and everything's a-okay. Because I'm not sure how much more stupid I can deal with. So I might need you to tell me a white lie and just tell me that the next witness is, you know, sane and competent and it's not great. It's not necessarily, you know, dispositive, but, you know, at least they put on someone that makes sense. That's what I'm going to need you to do with me right now. That'd be helpful. Thanks.
What do you want me to say?
Did Trooper Proctor tell you that those pieces of glass on the bumper are somehow associated with the cup?
No.
Just the crime scene told you.
Correct.
The CSI people, would that be the search and rescue
But if you
people?
knew that the crime scene was incorrect, and in fact those glass pieces don't match the cup, would that change your opinion?
Objection.
Sustained.
Would it change your opinion in any way if you knew that the glass pieces do not match the cup?
Objection.
I'll allow that. Can you answer that question?
No.
I'm
Really? Seriously? It wouldn't impact any of your conclusions if you knew the glass was not from the cup? Seriously? It wouldn't change your conclusions in any way? Really? Mr. Expert? Okay.
sorry. No.
I don't. It's a glass from a cup. It's a glass. It's not. It doesn't belong to the vehicle.
Right.
It's glass.
But if I told you it didn't match that cup,
What,
your opinion.
Objection.
Does that change your opinion?
are we talking? Which cup are we? We never established which cup we're talking about.
How many cups have we been talking about, Trooper?
You said that cup. From the scene? Okay.
That cup. I'm talking.
I just want to make sure that we're on the clear path here.
Yep.
On the clear what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Really sure.
All I said, it's
Found next to John O'Keefe's body in the snow at 34 Fairview on January 29, 2022. You got the cup in mind?
yes.
Okay. That's the cup. When I say cup, that's the cup.
Okay.
Yep.
Would it change your
There's only one cup in this frame of reference. There's been no ambiguity about the cup. When he says that cup, it can only be referring to one thing. There's only one antecedent. There's only one antecedent, right? The word that is a definite article. It refers to a specific thing. That cup, not a cup, that cup. It's a specific antecedent. And we all know what cup, because there's only been one cup in discussion. But suddenly he's like, I'm not sure which cup you mean. Literally the only cup we've been talking about. There's only one possible antecedent. That's how English works. There's only one possible cup we could be talking about. The cup that was found with John O'Keefe's body. That cup, you idiots. Can you follow along? Can you follow the bouncy ball? Can you follow the bouncy ball as it moves? Please. Please follow the bouncy ball. Damn.
opinion if I told you that the glass pieces on the bumper don't match that cup?
What's my opinion on it? All I said was glass from a cup. That's the only opinion I had. It's glass from a cup that was on a bumper.
Are you saying a cup?
A cup. A cup. It's not glass from the car. That was my opinion on it.
What cup? What cup? If not that cup, what cup? Where is this other mysterious cup coming from? That the glass is from? Where is it coming from? where's this other glass coming from? What other cup could it be? Okay, sure, why not? That's fine.
I didn't never said it matched to the scene.
You didn't.
I never said that in my thing. I said it's glass from a cup.
How did you make that determination, incidentally? How did you make the determination it's glass from a cup in particular? I mean, there might be an answer to this question. I'm genuinely asking. But how did you make that determination? Is glass from a cup different from glass from other purposes? Maybe the answer is yes. Maybe there's certain kinds of glass that are only used for cups and not used for anything else. I don't know. I'm not an expert. But how did you determine it was glass from a cup? Did you determine it because it's a type of glass that only is used for cups and no other purpose, so it must be from a cup? Did you make it that way? Or how are you drawing these conclusions? On what basis did you make the conclusion? Can you help me out on that one, please? Please help me out.
It's safe to say you didn't do any testing to determine the forces necessary to shatter a taillight on a 2021 Lexus 570, right?
I did not do testing.
Of course not. Why did you do testing, expert?
Your report indicates, we talked about this a little bit, I'm going to go back to something we talked about earlier this morning. Your report indicates that John O'Keefe came into his final resting place about 7 feet from the roadway, and that's what you based your diagram on, correct?
Yes.
Who told you that number?
I measured it from my diagram.
You should say that again?
I measured it from the diagram.
Okay, what I'm asking is how did it get on the diagram? In other words, who told you that his body was 7 feet from the roadway?
Well, wait, I was told by Lieutenant, was it Gallagher, Paul Gallagher, Captain PT. He told me this is where the body was found. Okay. So I used my devices to mark that location. Okay,
but before you used your devices, he just pointed someplace on the ground and said he was about him, correct?
That's correct.
Did Lieutenant Gallagher tell you that Lieutenant Gallagher never saw John O'Keefe in place at the scene? Did he say that?
No.
Wow. Okay. So the person who told you where the body was found did not personally observe the body at the scene. So your marking of where the body was found was based on a guy telling you where the body was found who did not observe the body. Yeah, that seems a bit problematic to me. And you based your entire reconstruction. You based your entire reconstruction on where the pieces of glass were found, which themselves were not marked. So those are not marked where the pieces of glass were found, other than the one by the fire hydrant, because, well, we have it in a shot, but none of the other pieces of glass were marked. So you don't know where the pieces of glass were found. And you're also, it's based on where the body was found, and that mark was based on someone telling you who himself did not observe it. And your entire reconstruction was based on this, well, I guess we'll call it evidence. And that's what your report was based on. Do I really have to sit here and point out the problems? Do I really have to sit here and explain why this poses a problem? Do I really have to explain it? Because if I have to explain it, God help us all.
Did Lieutenant Gallagher tell you that the first officer on the scene estimated his body at being approximately 15 to 20 feet from the roadway?
No.
If he had told
So Gallagher said 7 feet, but Gallagher was told by another officer maybe 15 to 20 feet, which might be somewhat important as we're trying to determine what happened. 10 feet is a bit of a difference. Plus, on the map, it's 30 feet. So it's 7 feet, or it's 15 feet, or it's 30 feet. All these numbers are exactly the same in this context somehow. Okay.
you that it changed your diagram?
Objection.
Overruled.
He told me this is where he was found. I
Good.
marked that location.
Good.
That's all that was.
Good.
And you marked basically every other piece of item. Sorry, it was a terrible question. Every other item you marked based on a distance from where you were told John O'Keefe's body came to rest, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and that was by Lieutenant Gallagher just pointing at the ground and saying it was about here.
Correct.
Sure. That sounds normal.
Was there a single member of the team that was out when you were being shown where the body came to rest? Was there a single member of that team who actually said they saw John O'Keefe's body in place?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
What do you mean team? Canton PD?
Whoever was there. Who was there with you when you started doing your measurements, et cetera? Or Fairview?
It's Lieutenant Gallagher. That's who.
Just you and him?
And myself, and I was training a trooper at the time. She was there.
You were training a trooper at the time?
Yes.
Okay, so my
This guy's in charge of training troopers. This guy's in charge of training. Holy shit.
mistake. I assumed that there were several people out there, just you and Lieutenant Gallagher.
Yes, that's why I was confused by the team.
All right. And again, Lieutenant Gallagher didn't tell you that he never saw John O'Keefe's body in place.
No, I don't think so.
You did document in your report that the items that you noted on your diagram that we just looked at a few minutes ago, those were found by the CERT team, correct?
Yes.
And you indicated in your report that the members of the CERT team located a single Nike sneaker that's noted on your report. Is that right? On your
Correct.
diagram, right?
Yes.
You also indicated that, quote, in the same area, 2 red plastic pieces and 1 clear piece of plastic of a taillight was discovered.
Yes.
So your report is clear that in total, the items discovered by the CERT team on January 29th were a shoe, right?
Yes.
A partial glass cup broken, correct?
Well, it was that on there. I can't remember if that's on their diagram or if that's what I was told at the scene, but yes.
Sure.
Yes.
You knew that a cup was found.
Yes.
You were told a cup was found.
Yes.
And 3 pieces of plastic, 2 red, 1 clear.
Yes.
Not 5 pieces of plastic, correct?
Correct.
Oh yeah, it's just wait a second.
You didn't
Wait a
measure
second.
the-
I thought the CERT team said they found 6, maybe 7 pieces. Isn't that what the CERT team said when they testified? We found 6, maybe 7 pieces, but the number is actually 3. 3 pieces is what the CERT team found. Of the 42 that were supposedly there, we found 3. Wow, that success rate is dipping below 10% now. That CERT team's really, really good, man. Really, really good. They have a 90% plus margin of error. Great work, boys. I feel confident.
those items, is that right?
I didn't, what do you mean measure them? Like
Measure
at
them
this,
relative to John O'Keefe's final place of rest. 10 feet from it, 12 feet from it, we're gonna go over those numbers.
yes, I used their report to place those items onto my diagram.
So, and then I'm going to get to that question in just a second. I want to make sure that we walk through it sort of methodically. You then use some calculation, some tool or something to measure distances. Like there's where I assume John O'Keefe's body was. There's a final rest place. I'm going to use that as point A, and then I'm going to measure from there and go 7 feet to where the shoe was found, or the first red plastic piece was found, or whatever, right?
Yes.
Who told you where the pieces were found?
They were in Lieutenant Tully's report. He put measurements in his report.
Okay. And you noted that the shoe was 9 feet.
Yes,
You put that in your diagram.
correct.
You noted that the glass cup was 1 foot from John O'Keefe's body, correct?
Correct.
1 foot is about that long, right?
Yes, it was. They basically said it was found next to him.
Right.
Yes.
A piece of red plastic 7 feet from John O'Keefe's body, correct?
Correct.
A clear plastic piece 10 feet from John O'Keefe's body, right?
Yes.
And a red plastic piece 12 feet from John O'Keefe's body, correct?
Correct.
What part of his body were you measuring from?
Like center of mass.
So he's 6'2".
Yes.
Did Lieutenant Gallagher tell you where his center mass was?
No, I measured from. He just said he was here, so I tried to put like where his head, where his feet, and try to measure the middle between those two.
So ultimately, because Lieutenant Gallagher was not at the scene when he was found, Lieutenant Gallagher had to sort of guess where the body was found, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
You had no photographs of John O'Keefe in place, correct?
Correct.
There were no establishing shots.
How do you not have a photograph of where the body was found? How do you not have 300 photographs of where the body was found so you can determine frames of reference? Isn't photographing the body kind of, sort of basic crime scene procedure, I think? Photographing it from many angles. And so you can see like what's around in the scene and all that kind of stuff. How do you not have photographs? And you're the reconstruction expert. How's that work?
There were no perspective shots, correct?
Correct.
There were no relative shots, meaning this is relative to that, I can measure that and figure out distances, correct?
What, like from a picture?
Yeah, so you know how that's done in science, right? You want to find out a relative.
There were only 18 pictures taken? What? What? Only 18 pictures taken. Oh my Lord, that's good news.
Position of something, so you take 2 or 3 or 4 shots. You know that something is never going to move, like, I don't know, a flagpole. You can measure from there.
Sure.
You get cross coordinates, right?
Sure.
Left and right, where the 2 coordinates match, that's where the item is, right?
Correct.
None of that was done, right?
From the pictures?
None of that was done to do your measurements.
I used the measurements from, I measured on my diagram in itself, and I measured from those points off my diagram.
Right, but the starting point was a guess, wasn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you have to sort of guess at where you thought John O'Keefe's body was?
I didn't guess where his body was.
Did you guess at his center of mass?
Objection.
Did you guess?
I did not guess.
Next question.
You stated in your report that you Google mapped Miss Reed's path of travel. Well, let me ask you a different question. If I could withdraw that question with the court's permission.
Yes.
Your diagram has all those arrows pointing at specific locations. Very, very specific, very thin arrows point, correct?
Yes.
If you start off with an incorrect assumption about where John O'Keefe's body was, right? Hypothetically, if you were to start off with an incorrect assumption where John O'Keefe's body was, every single item that you note on that diagram would then be off as well, wouldn't it?
Objection.
Is that true?
I mean, I guess hypothetically, depends on how off you want to be.
And the answer is yes, right?
Hypothetically.
You stated in your report that you Google mapped Miss Reed's path of travel on January 29th based on what you determined to be, quote, it's likely the two, and you said that it's, quote, it's likely that the two events, meaning the triggering events, occurred at the same time the Lexus was at 34 Fairview at the time of the collision, correct?
Yes.
The first triggering event was what? Was it a 3-point turn or a U-turn? I thought I heard you say both.
I guess it would be more, 3-point turns, essentially, I guess it's a 3-point turn.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, did you say U-turn on Friday? I just want to hear that.
It could have been a U-turn. I mean, it's still turning around, so you had to make a U-turn when that's a 3-point turn or not, but it's still.
Okay, but not to be picky, but sort of my job.
Okay.
A U-turn is traveling in one direction, turning, right? Turning the wheel, never changing gear, since it's reverse or anything, it's just turning, right? A 3-point turn requires moving forward, stopping, changing gears, moving backward, stopping, changing gears, using a steering input, and then moving off, correct?
Correct.
Well, those are two very different maneuvers, right? You'd agree?
It's, in a sense, I was trying to say she made a U-turn. Like you can say when they made a U-turn, it's a 3-point turn. They're still making a U-turn, and it's. I didn't mean it as like she literally had to make a direct U-turn. She was turning around, and obviously the diagram or the trigger shows a 3-point turn.
So when I said U-turn, I didn't mean U-turn. Cool. I mean that's fine and normal, right? That's just good and fine and normal in every possible way. There's no reason to worry about any of that stuff, right? All right. So yeah, good times. I will take this moment to make you aware of some new merch we have. We have some Karen Reed merch on our linked page. For this, we got some other merch if you want to follow that along, but we got this wonderful evidence cup sticker you can buy, so you can just put a sticker on something to show that you have your red Solo Cup evidence needs. And we also have this wonderful, what I think is really cool, we have this evidence cup glass. So if you need your own Solo Cup evidence cup glass, we have that available for sale. How can you not like that? That's good shit. And then we have the Taint Team with the bee fish. If you like a Taint Team thing for your thing, we got that. And we got some other cool merch items that you can check out. So you can check out our store at the linked page. So I hope you will like all those things. We designed them for you. Back to the stream.
Well, I mean, I guess you could have said reversing direction, right?
That would have been a better way to say it, yes.
You didn't say that. You said U-turn. So are you changing your testimony from Friday that it was a 3-point turn, or could it possibly have been a U-turn?
It's a 3-point turn.
Okay, because you have evidence of the starting, stopping, changing gears, reversing, stopping, changing gears, turning.
That's correct.
So when you said U-turn, that was inaccurate.
Objection.
The objection sustained.
Let's get back to the path of travel when you began your analysis. How did you know what the Lexus's path of travel was that day?
I got the directions from Trooper Proctor.
And what did Trooper Proctor tell you in terms of the path of travel specifically? Starting point and an ending point? Tell you the exact path Lexus traveled?
No, all I got was mostly just the addresses.
Okay, so if you've got 2 points on a map, and Trooper Proctor told you Lexus traveled from point A to point B, there are multiple ways to get from point A to point B. You'd agree with that, right?
Yes.
You picked one of those, right? The path of travel includes freeways, et cetera, right?
Yes.
But as you sit here, you don't know what her actual path of travel was, because it could have been something different, right?
It could have been something. That's why I gave a range on my diagram.
Do you have any scientific evidence to establish what her actual path of travel is, or did you just guess at the path of travel?
I got the addresses from Trooper Proctor. I put them into the thing, and then one of the possibilities of 36 miles, and that was After looking at all of them, at 36 miles is a possibility.
Right, understood. So that's what I'm trying to get to, Trooper Paul.
Okay.
That's one possibility. There's 36 miles, one route of travel, right?
Correct.
There are other possibilities, right?
Yes.
So between and among the possibility that you picked and the other possibilities, you just sort of have to guess. And there's no science to it. You just said, I'm going to pick that and put it in my report, right?
No, that's not how that worked.
Okay, why don't you tell me how that works?
Her odometer mileage on the car from the download and the time we had the vehicle shows 36 miles. So when I plugged those addresses into Google, it came up as 36 miles as a possibility.
And you knew that there was another route of travel to the same location, correct?
What do you mean?
There were alternative routes of travel to the same 2 points, from and to the same points, correct?
Yes, yes.
You could have tried to extract the location data from Ms. Reed's cell phone to determine the exact route of travel, correct?
I don't know. I don't have access to do cell phone extractions.
So that answers my next question. You did not even attempt to do that, did you?
No.
You did attempt to analyze the key cycles for the Lexus in order to determine placement of that vehicle. You just talked about that with Mr. Lauer, right?
Yes.
I want to be clear for the jurors because most people have probably never heard of key cycles. A key cycle does not have any location data associated with it whatsoever, does it?
Correct.
It just shows you when a vehicle is turned on, the ignition is on, and off. That's one cycle, correct?
No.
Tell me what I've got wrong.
Key cycle of the car doesn't have to be turned on.
Say that again.
It goes from off to run. The engine doesn't have to be started to off.
Understood. So if it turns on, well, every single ignition is a key cycle. Every time the engine turns on, that's absolutely a key cycle. Once it's turned off again, right?
That gets recorded as an ignition cycle.
Right. So
Fair.
a key cycle can be an ignition cycle, but it doesn't have to be an ignition cycle. It also can be just turning the sort of accessory on, right?
The key cycles turn the accessories on.
All right. But it does, my question was, where we started with this conversation is, it does not have any location data on it whatsoever.
Correct.
All right. So when you drive your car, you walk out, get in the car, turn the ignition on, start to drive, get to your location, turn it off. That's one key cycle, right?
One ignition cycle.
But and I'm going to use the word key cycles because you use the word key cycles in your report. That's what we're talking about.
I'm using that because that's how the trigger was read.
That's how what?
The triggers were read on the text stream. That's how they read them, key cycles.
Right, key cycles.
Yes.
I'm going to use that phrase, key cycle.
Okay.
We're talking about the same thing. It's an ignition on, ignition off cycle.
Doesn't have to be on.
So you mean the engine doesn't have to be turned on?
Correct.
Right. But if you're seeing triggering events, not trying to be tricky here, seeing triggering events, the car's in motion, what does that tell you? The ignition's on or off?
The ignition's on.
Right. That's what I'm getting to. But it has no location data associated with whatsoever. It could be here, it could be in Wyoming. The car wouldn't know the difference. It's not going to report the difference to you, correct?
On the key cycle?
Right.
On just the key cycle. The key cycle does not give out locations.
Say that again?
The key cycle does not give a location.
Right.
Right.
So your analysis is trying to go from a known key cycle that you can figure out and then work backward from there to try to figure out where the car was on a particular ignition cycle or key cycle, correct?
I didn't use the key cycle to put it back.
Say that again?
I did not use the key cycle to place the car back in its location. The key cycles were, all I got from the key cycles is that they occurred close within proximity to the time we've had the vehicle, not basically saying that this was the location based off the key cycle.
Well, let's look at Exhibit 591 with the court's permission.
Okay.
you testify on Friday that this is a copy of the exhibit that was put in 591. This is part of your report, correct?
Yes, it is.
And this is a chart that shows when, move to this arrow, that arrow indicates top and bottom where your testing occurred, correct?
Yes.
And we move over to the left, that is key cycle what?
1164.
Right. So you've testified, and we can turn the lights on. Your Honor, I don't mind if that stays up. We can turn the lights on. I don't think it hurts anything. You stated in your report that there were, quote, 2 triggers recorded on odometer 12629 and key cycle 1162, correct?
Yes.
These events were prior to the testing triggers on odometer readings 12665/12666 and at key cycle 1164. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So what we're saying, what you're saying in that report is the triggering events were at 1162, going in reverse in order. 1162 comes before 1164. They're numerical. Is that right?
Yes.
Every single key cycle just tags another number on top of it, right? There's no formula.
Correct.
After 1 comes 2, after 2 comes 3, 4, 5, 6, and then move on, right?
Yes.
So by the time you got the vehicle, there had been 1,164 key cycles on the history of that car, correct?
Correct.
All right. And you knew, when you put in your report, or you know, that the triggering events that you see under 1164, those are yours,
Yes.
right? I mean, that's your testing.
Yes.
And you were very clear that the triggers that you recorded, that you talked to Mr. Lally about, were 2 cycles before that,
Yes.
meaning ignition cycles at least, right?
Yes. For that.
You report, well, let me finish the point. You said that the mileage difference.
Why is my video doing that? I suppose that's in the original that's flaking like that, because it's not me. I don't think. It's just weird.
Difference between these 2 triggers and the triggers that occurred while testing was 36 miles. You just said that, right?
Yes.
And the key cycle difference was exactly 2 key cycles, right?
Yes.
1164, 1163, 1162. That's the triggering events, correct?
That's correct.
You also reiterated in your report in paragraph 23, 24, 26, and 29, and also in this exhibit in your CARS report, that the triggers occurred at key cycle 1162, right?
Yes.
You were assisted in your CARS report, I think you mentioned Trooper Zach Clark, is that right?
Yes.
Trooper Proctor assisted to a certain degree, correct?
Yes.
Trooper Larini, Carol Larini, is that right?
Yes.
Also Sergeant Sean Good of Canton PD assisted as well, correct?
Yes, in a sense.
In
Did
sense?
they all read the report before it was finalized?
No.
Did you have any supervisor read the report before it was finalized?
Yes.
And he agreed with the assessments in the report?
Yes.
So in summary, everybody that read the report and you who authored the report believed, and it's reflected in that report, that key cycle 1162 contained the 2 triggers that you're talking about, right?
Yes.
That's the 3-point turn, I guess it's now a 3-point turn, right? Changing direction, and then
Yes.
the reverse at 24 miles per hour, correct?
Correct.
And you even went on and testified to that exact thing under oath in front of the state grand jury, correct?
Yes. Wait, hold on. I need the text streams?
On the key cycles.
Not in grand jury.
Okay. Testified to it on direct examination on Friday and again this morning.
Yes, correct.
Key cycles, ma'am.
If your testing occurred at key cycle 1164, that means you turned the engine on, the ignition on to start your testing, correct?
Correct.
And that triggering event that we see up there at 1164 initiated your testing, is that right?
Yes.
All right. So that 1164 is where you That's where there's no more unknowns, in other words. Right? You know exactly where the car is, who's in the car, who turned the car on, and what the triggering events were and what they reflected, because you did it, correct?
Correct.
It's you.
Yes.
So that would be the cornerstone, basically, of your entire analysis of key cycles.
Say again.
The cornerstone, in other words, the one known that is immovable, it's immutable, is 1164 began your testing. Is that right?
Objection.
Is that right? I'm going to allow the question.
Yeah, that's when the car was in state custody.
All right. So starting at 1164 and counting backward, before you started your testing, you know that the SUV had to be started, the ignition had to be turned over, and it was driven to the Sally Port in Canton at 5:31 p.m. from a tow truck on January 29th, correct?
I didn't know that.
You
You
did?
did or did not?
Did not know that.
Okay.
I mean, is that just
Assuming
logical?
The car had to be started and put on a tow truck. That would be key cycle what?
I don't know how. I can't speak to the fact that recorded a key cycle at that time.
I can't hear you.
I can't speak to the fact that would record a key cycle at that time.
Okay. If the car was turned on and driven onto a tow truck, would that be a key cycle?
I don't know because these keys record different ways, so I can't speak to how or why it did not record on there. All I can speak to is that those are the key cycles. The odometer mileage is more what I was going after on this whole thing.
Trooper Paul, you just said unequivocally, when a car is turned on and then turned off, there's a key cycle.
I said when the car without the ignition on, that's a key cycle.
Right?
That's correct.
That's what I mean,
Yeah.
when it's turned on, when the engine turns on.
That's the definition of what it is. I can't speak to why it didn't go on, why it did not record.
Well,
So we're going with, once again, the log is wrong. That's what we're going with once again. So the Celebrite data is wrong. The evidence data is wrong. The cops reports are wrong. What else? The phone logs are wrong. And now the Lexus SUV's key cycle information is wrong. All these databases are wrong. The search, remember, that's wrong because the 2 o'clock search, that's wrong. So all these databases are wrong. That is a lot of independent databases that are all wrong at the same time. You just have to say that is a lot of independent databases that all have errors all at the same time. And okay, so the Lexus, every time there's a key cycle, would record it, but for some reason it didn't record those key cycles. Somehow, some way, the Lexus just did not record those particular key cycles. Yeah, and we're supposed to believe this. We're supposed to believe that once again that the data is just fundamentally wrong. Okay. I mean, sure. Why not? All right.
let's talk about the ignition cycles
Okay.
before 1164. Okay?
Okay.
Obviously, the car had to get to Canton PD because you saw it there, correct?
Correct.
Assume for purposes of my question, the car was turned on, and there's a video of it turning on, driving up onto a flatbed tow truck.
Yes.
That would be ignition cycle, I'm going to use your word, key cycle, ignition cycle, 1163, correct?
Again, ignition cycle, key cycles are two different things.
Which word do you want me to use?
If you want to talk about key cycles, key cycles. You want to talk about ignition cycles, it's ignition cycles when its vehicle gets turned on. A key cycle does not mean to be turned on.
But every single ignition cycle includes a key cycle. You can't have an ignition cycle without a key cycle, correct?
Well, if you want to talk about it, just use the key cycles or ignition cycles. I'm trying to make sure this gets out. I'm trying to make sure that this gets put out the correct way.
Every ignition cycle includes a key cycle, correct?
In a sense,
By definition, it has to, right?
it doesn't have to. They record multiple different ways.
You can have an ignition cycle without a key cycle.
I don't know how it recorded, but it could, it could happen.
Sure, why not?
Explain that. How could that possibly happen?
Because a key cycle is when it turns on, not engine running, and then turns off.
Okay, so work with me here.
Ignition cycle is when it turns on, engine running for 2 seconds, and then comes off.
Okay, so
Or the 2 seconds is not on long enough, it might not record one.
okay, let's ignore the 2 seconds.
Okay.
That's not what we're doing.
Let's ignore that.
All right. Let's assume that it's an old-fashioned type of key.
Okay.
Okay? Halfway on, the electricity is on. It's like it used to be called ACC,
Yes.
accessories, right?
Yep.
That's a key cycle, correct?
For that intensive purpose, yes. This vehicle's not a key cycle, so not a
Then you
thing.
keep turning,
Okay.
and that turns the engine on, right?
It turns the engine on, correct.
An ignition cycle, right?
Yes. Well, then turns off.
So ignition cycle necessarily includes the precursor key cycle, correct? Even though every key cycle might not include an ignition cycle. Would you agree with that?
In that scenario, yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the basic logic.
That definition. I want to talk about
I'm so mad that we had to work that hard to get basic logic out of him. I mean, that was readily apparent several questions ago, but we have to pull teeth to make him do it. It's like, yes, that is logically required. Every ignition cycle necessarily is a key cycle, but not the other way around. We get it. We get it. All humans are mammals. Not all mammals are human. We understand. But yes, every ignition cycle is necessarily a key cycle. Thank you for following along with Basic Logic 101. At this point, I feel like I might need to offer a course on logical thinking and formal logic, because apparently these people need it. I'll need to offer a class on formal logic and you. If these premises are true, what must necessarily be true? In math, what must necessarily be true?
about ignition cycles, because I don't want to get confused about accessories. Just assume the engine
Okay.
turns on, right?
Okay.
If you started your testing at 1164, then if the engine was turned on, thereby indicating initiating a key cycle, driving the car onto a flatbed truck, and then hauling it over to Canton PD, that would be key cycle 1163 in that hypothetical, correct?
It could be.
Okay? Then going backward from there, if the SUV was, I'm sorry, let me add one.
Brian, I like that comment. Kurt, what must necessarily be true? Trooper Paul, an orange? Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right. Good comment. Well done.
Event that I just forgot. It had to get off the tow truck in Canton and be driven into the Sally Port. Did you ever see that video?
No.
Being driven in?
No.
If there was a video showing that the car was actually driven into the Sally Port, that would necessarily be a key.
On a manual transmission, you could stop the engine without turning the key cycle off. I mean, short of it running out of gas, I'm not sure how you would turn the engine off on a manual transmission without turning the key. How would you do that? How would you turn the engine off on a manual transmission without turning the key, other than by it running out of gas and the engine cutting off that way? How would that work? Stall it? I guess. All right, fair. I mean, you'd have to try, but I suppose fair. But this isn't a manual transmission car, so we can press past that point because, well, we're not in a manual transmission universe. But fair enough. For the technically correct is best kind of correct. Fair enough. If it were a manually transmission car, then yes. But since it's not, let's press on.
key cycle, correct?
Possibly.
Okay, so that would be key cycle 1163. My mistake, I was missing one, right?
Okay.
Before that, if the car was turned on and driven onto the flatbed to get to Canton, that would be key cycle 1162 in order, correct? We're going backward.
It's possible.
All right. Before that, if the car was started and the car was driven from One Meadows Avenue to Karen Reed's parents' home in Dighton, that would be another key cycle, 1161, correct?
They're possible.
Before that, if the SUV was started and driven by Miss Reed from the garage at John O'Keefe's house to Jennifer McCabe's house at 5:07 in the morning, that would be another key cycle, correct? 1160. Isn't that right?
It's possible.
And before that, if the SUV was started and driven by Miss Reed to the waterfall, from the waterfall to 34 Fairview at approximately 12:15 a.m., that would be another key cycle, 1159, right?
It's possible.
I want to be clear. The reason that these numbers skip in your diagram, they don't go directly in order, right? Not every single number is in order on this left-hand column, because this is only a diagram of when triggering events occur, right?
Yes.
Something unusual about the operation.
Although even then, even if you stalled it, the engine would turn off, but you'd still have to, in order to restart the car, well, I guess you could try to like push start your manual. But other than that, you'd have to key cycle it. So yeah, I guess there's some hypothetical possibility you could stop the engine and restart it without turning the key. But let's press past those hyper unique situations, because this is a Lexus SUV, not manual, and none of those things are happening. So let's stick to hypotheticals that make sense within the constraint of is a Lexus SUV, and we'll go from there. You know what I mean? Yeah. Don't ever think it too much. Yeah.
Vehicle, correct?
Yes.
And it's clear that from the data, there was no triggering event at key cycle 1159, was there?
No.
So assuming the driving events that I just told you, right? Assuming for purposes of
Screwdriver, you can start it without a key. Well, in that hypothetical, the screwdriver is the key. You've just turned the screwdriver into the key. You've made your own key using a screwdriver. So I'm not sure that example works, but fair. You guys are fun trying to pick this apart. I think you guys are kind of missing the point, but it's appreciated. I appreciate you're technically correct as best kind of correct, but fair enough. Yeah, maybe the screwdriver just is the key at that point. If you're dealing with an old enough car, you can just you take out the tape deck and put it in backwards, and you short the car and you can start it that way and all kinds of shit. So yeah, okay, we can press on. We can press on. It's fine.
my question. That the driving events started at 11:59, driving over to 34 Fairview from the waterfall. Then driving at 5:07 in the morning over to Jenny Cave's house, 11:60. Then driving to Dighton, her parents' house, 11:61. Then the car being seized in Dighton by Trooper Proctor, 11:62. Then the car being taken off the flatbed and driven into the Sally Port at Canton, 11:63. Your testing starts at 11:64. That would mean that at 11:62, that key cycle would include the time in which Trooper Proctor had possession of that car, correct?
No.
Assuming my hypothetical.
Your hypothetical?
Yes.
If that's hypothetically how it works, then yes.
Yeah.
Then what?
Yeah.
If that's hypothetically how it works, then yes.
Yeah. That's logic. Thank you for playing.
On June 9th, 2022, you were asked by a grand jury whether you knew or had done any scientific testing to determine the distance a body would actually travel struck by a vehicle. Remember that?
Not that specifically. Not in that way.
Do you remember answering that you had not, I'm just paraphrasing, that you had not done all you hadn't finished your report yet?
Why don't you show him? He said he didn't remember it that way.
Did you guys ever stop to think that maybe the Lexus isn't diesel or gasoline? You guys stop to think of that? Maybe it's been converted to run on natural gas. Huh? Or maybe it's a steam engine in the Lexus. You guys ever considered those possibilities? As long as we're speculating wildly? Maybe it runs on methane. Yeah, there you go. You got it.
Yeah?
Yes.
Take a look at middle of the page. Your answer starts at about line 12, but the question above it is probably informative. You have that in mind?
Yep.
May I approach?
Yes.
Maybe it's a turbine engine.
You were asked, does that remind you that you
Maybe it's a turbine engine. Maybe someone found one of those cars. I forget, was it GM that made the turbine car? Maybe someone found the turbine engine and took it out and put it inside a Lexus. Maybe it's a turbine engine and it will run on anything.
were asked by a grand juror if you could calculate how far a body would move having been struck by a vehicle.
Yes.
And you indicated, quote, yeah, there's certain calculations we can do with that, but figure out if the car backed up, hit somebody, and then they go a certain amount of distance, and it's based on miles per hour, the speed of the vehicle, the striking vehicle, and stuff. Remember saying that?
Yes.
What did you mean by stuff?
I don't know.
You know
You
what?
said that the calculations would be based on miles per hour and stuff. Did you ever do a stuff to test that?
Okay. All right. Well, that's a new one for me. My calculations were based on miles per hour and stuff. What do you mean by stuff? I don't know. That's a new one. That's a new one in physics, man. I don't remember stuff in the equations. Miles an hour and stuff. And he's the expert witness. It's amazing. It's amazing. You know, at this point, I think we'd be better off getting an Oreo to be a reconstruction expert because some of the Oreos have double stuff. Big brain. Big brain.
Grand jury's question.
No, we cannot calculate anything from this collision.
Say that one more time.
We cannot calculate anything from this collision.
Who's we?
I'm sorry, me, the role me.
Well, you know John O'Keefe's weight, right?
What's that?
You know John O'Keefe's weight, 217 pounds, right?
Yes.
Did you know that?
I don't know his weight, no.
You know the weight of the vehicle?
Yes.
What's the weight of the vehicle, gross weight?
What's the gross weight?
Yeah.
I think it's approximately 7,300 pounds.
Okay. Were you able to calculate the mass of the vehicle?
I did not calculate the mass of the vehicle.
Well, you told the grand jury.
You could just look it up. I mean, you don't even have to calculate it. Isn't the gross weight of the vehicle literally printed on the VIN plate that goes inside the driver's side door? Isn't one of the things that's located on that VIN plate the gross weight of the vehicle? You could just literally look at it and just read it. Okay, good times.
You were planning on doing that kind of stuff to calculate how far a person would travel being struck at that speed with a car of that weight. You didn't do those calculations?
No, because the calculations would vastly underestimate the speed of the vehicle.
You testified, again, my report isn't done yet. I'm going to look into it. I'm looking into all that stuff, end quote, correct?
Yes.
There's that word again.
Stuff.
It's been more than 2 years since that statement at the grand jury. Is your report finished?
Yes, it is.
Did you engage in any of those calculations?
I looked into it. This type of collision I would not be able to use the formulas for this type of collision.
Well, let's talk about those formulas. How would you calculate how far a body...
Excuse me, groceries are here. Be right back. Okie dokie, the stupid shall resume. All right, let's go back to it.
Rest would travel after being struck by an object in motion. How would you calculate that?
In pedestrian collisions, I use a Searle formula, Searle throw formula.
A what formula?
Searle.
What does that mean?
It's a type of formula that would use for a calculation of post-impact
So
speeds for pedestrians.
that includes certain principles of physics to calculate that, right?
What do you mean?
I'm sorry?
What do you mean by certain forms of physics?
I'm sorry. Your question as the expert is, what do we mean by physics? Your question as the expert is, what do we mean by physics? Okay. All right, fine. Sure, why not? All right.
There would be physics calculations that would be required to figure out how far a body at rest would move, having been struck by an object in motion.
Yeah.
That's a basic principle.
Yeah, I guess you could say though.
All right. Can you describe?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, yeah. If you have a body at rest and it's struck by a force, and you know the weight of the body and, you know, the amount of force, you should be able to make a pretty reasonable calculation about how far it moved. You know, yeah, that's, that'd be a good thing to know. Okay. Yeah.
Describe for the jurors exactly what calculations you would need to employ to determine how far a body at rest would travel, having been struck by an object in motion.
So in this scenario, in this collision, it's more of a sideswipe. So he did not ascertain.
That doesn't answer the question. That doesn't answer the question. That doesn't answer the question. The question is, what equation would you use if an object in motion hit an object at rest? And whether it's a sideswipe or not doesn't really change that factor. Now, it might change the amount of force because it's at an angle, so you might have to change that. But like the same fundamental equation is the same, right? The only thing you're changing now is how much force. And also, of course, if it's a sideswipe, it's probably less force than a direct blow, one would imagine, which means that the car would be even less likely to disable somebody if it was only hit at you, if you only hit them with partial. You know, the worst possible scenario, presumably, is the car being backed up straight at you because all the way the car is coming towards you. But if it comes at you from the side, it's probably not that scenario, which means that it's less likely to debilitate you. So if it's a side swipe, how did it knock him 30 feet? How do you do that with a side swipe when you're coming at from the side? Does anyone understand the questions I'm asking? Because they seem like pretty basic questions to me. Have I lost my rocker, or do these questions make sense?
He did not get enough speed of the vehicle post-impact with the vehicle to be able calculations. His center mass was offset from the vehicle. So we would vastly underestimate his speed. So
no, it wouldn't underestimate his feet. It would tell you the right amount of feet. It would change the number of feet. It would make the number of feet less, but it wouldn't underestimate his feet. If you calculated correctly the amount of force reduction for the side swipe, which I assume there's formulas for that too, because, you know, it's not our first time doing accident reconstruction, so you could probably look it up in a table. I imagine there's a table somewhere that tells you for a vehicle at different angles and perhaps even at different weights what the factor to be applied is, because that seems like something that would be known to accident reconstruction science. But it doesn't underestimate it. It just tells you the right number.
That's why I did not do a formula. If he was more in line with behind the vehicle, he would have been projected forward, and using that projection forward, he would have been able to get more closer to the actual speed of the vehicle during that post-impact travels.
Well, that presumes a couple of things, Paul. That presumes that he was quote unquote sideswiped, right?
Presumed?
Presumed by you. You didn't see how he was hit, did you?
Based on the evidence, it appeared to be a sideswipe.
That's your opinion.
That's just reading the evidence.
You're saying that the principles of physics as we know them today in modern mathematics is thwarted by a sideswipe?
Objection.
Is that what you're saying?
The calculations that are out there, you can get a speed, it would just underestimate the speed.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Really? Seriously? I mean, again, I have to say that I would imagine that the number of automobile accidents are something that happens somewhat frequently, as you might expect. They have, we have something like 30,000 deaths a year, although maybe a little bit less these days, but still like 20,000 plus deaths from motor vehicle accidents, plus, all the non-fatal accidents. So I would imagine that the science of reconstruction of vehicle crashes, between all the data that all the insurance companies have and all the university studies and everyone who's looked at this would have a pretty reasonable idea about, how to calculate these things. But he's the expert, guys, and he's willing to tell you that all the insurance companies and all the car companies who've studied this for crash safety reasons, for, getting their compliance with NHTSA, for example, they have their own studies. The car companies, the independent testing companies, the universities, the insurance companies, all these many people have no clue how to calculate for a sideswipe. And all the data is wrong, and he knows best because he's the expert. He's leading the trail, people. He's leading the trail. They're going to give this guy an award. He's going to be honored at a luncheon somewhere for all the new stuff he's bringing to the field. If fate is kind, he will get a Nobel Prize for his revision of physics itself. We have to update the textbooks, people. These guys has some interesting thoughts on the revision of these sciences that we thought we knew so well. Wow, these guys are amazing at the Massachusetts State Police. Wow.
You would have to know what the initial momentum of the object is that's in motion, correct?
Of what object?
The truck, Paul.
I would have to know that speed.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to know what the initial momentum is, not speed, momentum. There's a difference,
Okay.
right? Would you agree with that?
No.
Really?
You wouldn't have to calculate.
You don't think there's a difference between speed and momentum? Cool. That sounds fine. Yep. You're the expert though. There's no I'm revising my understandings as we go. So I have just learned a thing. There is no difference between speed and momentum. Exciting. I enjoy this education.
Calculate what the initial momentum is of the object in motion to determine the distance of the body at rest would move?
Well, in that sense, are we talking about trying to find the speed of the vehicle? That's usually what we're trying to do.
Right, okay, well, let's put the speed of the vehicle aside. Let's talk about initial momentum. What's the formula for calculating initial momentum?
There's different types of momentum formulas.
Well, there's actually one type of momentum formula. To calculate momentum.
Objection.
Sustained.
To calculate momentum, there is a single.
So sustained. Ask it differently.
Isn't it true, Trooper Paul, that there is a singular calculation for determining initial momentum? That is P equals M times V, where P is the momentum. You're solving for that. M is mass. We multiply that by velocity. Is that right? Pretty simple.
You wouldn't use that in a pedestrian collision.
Oh,
Why would you not use that in a pedestrian collision? Why would you not use that in a pedestrian collision? How is a pedestrian collision different when it comes to calculating momentum? What are you talking about? The rules of physics apparently are different when it comes to a pedestrian collision. Or at least the calculation of momentum is different when it comes to a pedestrian collision. So you would not use P equals MV in a pedestrian collision, because why would you use this formula for momentum when you're trying to calculate momentum in specifically a pedestrian incident? Because there's a different formula, which I'm sure he's going to tell us what that is, incidentally, so that we'll all be more educated on what the correct formula to use is. Noted. Noted. Tell me more.
because the pedestrian's somehow magically out of the realm of physics?
Yeah.
Objection.
Sustained.
Is the pedestrian out of the realm of physics and calculations?
No, it's the weight differential between the pedestrian and the vehicle.
It is not the weight difference, you moron. You need to know something else. Not just the weight. The weight is not enough. Although strictly speaking, mass, but I digress. But that is not enough information. What else do you need to know other than the mass of object 1 and the mass of object 2? Wouldn't the velocity also be very helpful information so that you know how much momentum is being imparted And then you know the total momentum. And then you can apply that to the weight of the other object, and that will tell you the velocity of that object. No, none of those things. None of those things. Okie dokie. Fine.
So if the vehicle is too heavy and the body is too light, you can't calculate the initial momentum of the vehicle?
Yes.
What? What? I mean, the momentum of the vehicle is not impacted by literally anything else. It is an object unto itself. The momentum of the vehicle does not change depending on the mass of the other object. That is not a thing. That is not how that works. The momentum of the vehicle is, in this frame of reference, a static concept. It is a given quantity. It is a known independent. It is not dependent on anything else. Nothing else matters. What the hell are you talking about? What the hell are you doing? What the hell is going on in this universe? Holy shit. Holy shit. Help me. Help me. I know too much physics. I haven't taken physics at this point in what, 20 years? But I know too much physics for this bullshit. Help me.
Got it. Where'd you learn that?
It's in my math class.
No, it's not.
You use momentum for a vehicle to be
Math class?
the math, the crash reconstruction.
No, it's not in your math class. That's bullshit.
Would you need to apply the theory of conservation of momentum in calculating these?
Yeah. One would imagine.
Do I need to calculate the conservation of momentum?
Or of calculation, of conservation of momentum?
Yes.
You even know what that is? There's an equation for that as well, right?
Yes.
You know what that is?
Not off the top of my head, but yes.
He's the expert, people. He's the expert, but he doesn't know what the formula for conservation of momentum is. Cool?
Based on the basic principles of physics, is the total momentum of the collision greater or less than the total momentum after the collision? Total momentum
Less.
before the collision, is it greater or less than the total momentum after the collision?
Less.
Basic question.
What type of
Less.
collision?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what type of collision. It doesn't matter. It is necessarily less. It is necessarily less. It doesn't matter if the vehicle hits a fly. It is less. It is necessarily less. Some of the momentum of the car will necessarily be transferred in any collision of any description, of anything it hits, of anything. It must necessarily transfer some momentum. That's how it works. What are you talking about? The nature of the collision doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. What are you talking about? I hate you. I hate you and everything you stand for. Help me. Help me.
Mr. Paul, they're exactly equal in all respects under the principles of physics, right? That's the theory of the conservation of momentum. Momentum doesn't change. It's
Yes.
transferred from one body to another,
Yes.
correct?
Correct.
Right.
Why did you
Correct.
say that to the jurors?
Objection.
Sustained.
Catman says, stop yelling. How can I stop yelling when this? How can I stop yelling? How can I stop yelling? But it's okay, guys, because I have capped out my audio at -10. So no matter how loud I yell, it will not get any louder to you because I thought ahead. So it won't blow out your ears because the audio is capped at -10 because I care about you.
Trooper Paul, if you were qualified
Big brain.
to, quote, look into all this stuff, you would probably know these answers, wouldn't you?
Objection.
Sustained.
Are there any other calculations that you'd need to figure out the stuff that you were talking to about with the grand jury?
Objection.
Sustained.
How about calculating the final velocity of the objects after the collision? Would that be important?
What objects?
That would be John O'Keefe's body, sir.
Yeah.
You-
Object
I don't.
you claimed was flying through the air 30 feet.
Objection.
Sustained.
How about calculating the displacement using kinematic equations? Would you be able to do that?
The displacement of the body.
In order to
I
calculate,
already had my workout today. I lifted, I think, 23,000 total pounds. You can double check my work on that one. I posted on my community tab. I lifted some weights. It was great. And then I came back to this bullshit. So, yeah. It makes me want to punch something, though. That's for sure.
how far the body would move based on the mass of the object striking the body. Could you use displacement
Sure.
using kinematic equations?
So like I said before, the Sideswipe, he would not have gotten,
Yeah, 23,000 pounds total volume. Yeah, 23,000 pounds total volume. That is the accumulated weight of all the weight I lifted during my workout. Obviously not at once. That'd be retarded. No, 23,000 is the total volume, all the weight I lifted. So if you lift 100 pounds 10 times, that would be 1,000 pounds, and so forth and so on. So yes, 23 total pounds of volume. I'm not that strong, not yet. We're getting there.
100% of the vehicle, 100% of the speed of the striking vehicle would have vastly underestimate this vehicle. You couldn't hit a person and Sideswipe and spin them off to the side and have that and get a speed from those calculations.
So you're saying that the discipline of physics cannot figure out how far John O'Keefe's body would move, but you personally figured out that he would have flown out somewhat or been projected somewhat 30 feet.
Objection.
Sir,
Sustained.
are you saying that the principles of physics are incapable of determining with the proper calculations how far John O'Keefe's body would have moved given the collision at issue?
Objection.
Is that what you're saying, Trooper?
No.
Okay, next question.
I mean, it kind of sounds like what you're saying. It kind of sounds like what you're saying because you literally said we can't use the formula for a pedestrian collision. You literally said that. We can't use it. So it literally sounds like you're saying that the rules of physics don't work, but that's okay. I'm here. I'm the expert. I figured out an alternative solution to the rules of physics. I mean, yeah, that kind of sounds like what you're saying. The rules of physics don't work. Never fear. Associate degree Baldo is here. Cool. Fantastic. Great. Wonderful.
Question.
Well, you just said because it was a sideswipe, all these calculations, these physics calculations are inapplicable, right?
What I'm saying, it would underestimate the speed and the distance.
The truth is, Trooper Paul, you have no idea what all these physics calculations mean, do you?
Objection.
Sustained.
You have not been trained in physics formally, have you?
Yes.
You have.
It's incorporated into the classes.
Right. You have taken classes that use the word physics, but you haven't been formally trained in physics, have
Objection.
Sustained.
you? You haven't been formally trained in kinematics, correct?
It's in the aspects of all our crash reconstruction classes.
You haven't been formally trained and hold no degrees in biomechanics, do you?
I do not have a degree in biomechanics.
In fact, basically what you did in this case was calculated emission cycles. And you got those wrong, right?
Objection.
Sustained. Come on, Mr. Jackson, ask the appropriate part of the question, you'll get it.
Let me ask you this.
Drink that water, baby. Drink it.
Reconstruction, nearly 2-year investigation. Exactly how was that taillight shattered?
Good question.
Explain it to us.
Good
How
question.
did the taillight, what do you mean? It got, so the taillight in this case was shattered when it was struck John O'Keefe's arm.
Exactly what part of his arm?
Based on what I saw for his injuries, was from the upper part of his arm down.
Was his arm
That seems odd, right? I mean, if it struck his arm, it produced enough damage to knock him out cold and immobilize him. If it struck his arm, does that strike anyone else as problematic? Also, it then caused him to fly 30 feet by striking his arm. Does that strike anyone else as kind of not workable? Like fundamentally not workable, as opposed to like it hitting your center of mass, your chest, which is kind of rigid, right? And, it being a direct sort of blow to your chest and maybe, hitting your heart. So maybe it hits your heart and somehow causes a heart attack, or hits your lungs and somehow causes them to collapse. I don't know. Something like that. Or even if not that like it transfers all the force to your center of mass, as opposed to it hitting your arm. Does it strike anyone else that the vehicle going 25 miles an hour, if it struck his arm, that would lead to a fatal injury? Does that strike anyone else as a bit unlikely? Is it just me? Am I the only one? Are there any medical professionals in the chat? Anyone who's an EMT or maybe a doctor? Does anyone have any medical training? And can they tell me if I'm completely off my mind? Does it strike anyone else does it strike any of our medical professionals as odd that a vehicle going 25 miles an hour that strikes someone's arm in and of itself, not leading to a blood clot that leads to a stroke, not leading to an embolism, not just that in and of itself, does it strike anyone else that it would be a little bit odd that would cause you to be immediately mobilized and also fly 30 feet through the air? Does that strike any of our medical professionals as a somewhat unlikely scenario? Because I'm having a trouble with that one. Yeah, that doesn't strike me as reasonable.
Out. It just struck the arm like a hinge. Was it in front of him? You did the reconstruction. It shows exactly how his body was positioned when he was struck by that.
So it looks like his arm was more kind of like this. If I can try to get that.
You're indicating out by his side, correct?
Yes.
All right. And the taillight would have struck his arm, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I buy bruising and possible fractures. I buy that. I buy bruising and possible fractures. Yeah, that seems plausible. Especially if for some reason you have some sort of condition that makes your bones weaker than the average man, then sure. Yeah, but I'm having trouble. I'm having trouble in this scenario. Yeah.
Not his torso.
Yes.
Okay. So the full mass, the full weight of that truck hit him basically at the elbow. Is that right?
No,
Missing his
no.
torso.
I said it, yeah, from upper part of the arm down. Yeah.
The elbow and the biceps.
I didn't see anything that shows an indication that this lower torso was struck, but
Okay. So
it's not saying it could not have been a possibility, but I just didn't see anything.
So his torso was spared from being hit, but the arm took the brunt, the full force of the vehicle, correct?
Like arm and shoulder, yes.
Okay. And you said he then did a spin, like a sort of a pirouette.
He got spun around possibly the way it struck, it looked like it could have turned around counterclockwise.
Okay. So if he turns around counterclockwise, is he turning around in the air counterclockwise?
Yes, initially.
So he gets hit on the upper biceps, shoulder area, and down to the forearm, right?
Yes.
By an unbroken taillight, right?
Yes.
In other words, it's nice and smooth. Nothing, no shards of plastic or anything broken at the time that it made contact with his arm, right?
Correct.
Okay, so how did his arm get all cut up?
Because when his arm struck the taillight then cracked, and as the car is driving past him, the taillight could scratch it.
Got it. So he gets hit by the car, not his torso, just the arm. The taillight cracks, and as it passes by, his arm stays with it long enough to get striations, those scratches that you see, those lacerations, those abrasions that you see, right?
In a sense, yes.
And at the same time, he does a pirouette and flies 30 feet to his final point of rest.
I don't know if he did a pirouette.
Well, I'm using the word pirouette. He spun around.
He started rotating counterclockwise. I don't know how far he ran counterclockwise, but he started rotating. According to that, would push him to rotate counterclockwise. Well, now he went.
Well, okay. If he is turning counterclockwise, you mean a torque was applied to him? Which would further mean that there is less force now pushing him straight back, right? If part of the force is causing him to spin, necessarily not all the force is causing him to fly backwards. Because, well, conservation of momentum, which we talked about earlier, right? We only have so much momentum to work with. So if some of the momentum is now being applied as a torque to cause him to spin, there's less momentum to cause him to fly through the air. So how is he going 30 feet in this scenario? Remember, it was a side glance, according to him. Remember, our expert friend said it wasn't a direct blow. It was a glancing blow, which would reduce the amount of force. And then some of that force is causing a torque on John O'Keefe, which leaves less momentum for him to go flying through the air, but somehow makes it 30 feet to a blow to his arm. Who is buying this story? I'm trying to sell. Who is buying this? Buy it. I don't know, man. I'm having a tough time selling this one. Doesn't sound like that makes a lot of sense to me. I'm having a difficult time over here. All right, I think we just need to all take collectively just a moment for ourselves. All right, let's just take a moment of meditation. Let's just breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Okay. We can resume now.
Counterclockwise all the way to his back toward the ground. It seems like a most likely possibility.
Did you account for the fact that his arm is on a hinge?
It's what? Say again?
Did you account for the fact in this scenario that you just told the jurors that his arm is on a hinge?
Yep.
On a
On his
hinge.
shoulder?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So, arm got hit. Didn't his arm just swing?
I said arm and shoulder area, so his arm could have been considered part of it.
Even if his shoulder got the upper,
Okay.
you're pointing to his upper biceps. Right? There's no injuries on his shoulder, not a single one, not even a bruise, right?
Yep.
Like I said, it looked like to me it was from up here. I don't know how far I can up back here, but it was up here.
Well,
So
you're the one that talked about his injuries on his arm.
yes.
That's limited to about mid biceps, to about mid forearm, correct?
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
No injuries on the shoulder, no injuries on the torso,
Yep.
no injuries on the ribs,
Yep.
no injuries on the back.
Yep.
correct? Is that right?
Yes.
So your theory is you got hit on the arm, took the brunt of the force from the taillight on the arm, stayed with the vehicle long enough for the taillight to explode, basically, to shatter. Then these striations get on his arm, abrasions. Does a pirouette, spin, counterclockwise, and flies 30 feet in the air to his point of rest.
Yeah, that about summarizes it.
Yeah. I have to probably go faster than that though.
Yeah, okay. So the defense attorney confirms that, in fact, that is the story that he's trying to sell us. So, yes, that is the theory that he's trying to sell us. A glancing blow hit his arm and caused him to spin and fly through the air 30 feet, even though his arm is on a hinge and would presumably move because, it's not a static object as opposed to like the chest or something, which has much less give. And that's the theory he wants to sell us. I'm having problems with basically literally every single step of that theory. Basically every single step, every single one is bullshit.
curb.
I said that's one of the possibilities of when you look at the roadway, as it gets spun around kind of clockwise, it's a possibility that the curb is there, any blunt force object on the ground, as the ground is pretty blunt.
Well, except in your scenario that you just told us, you flew through the air onto the light dusting of snow, grass, and dirt.
I didn't say through the air.
Say that again?
I didn't say he got thrown through the air.
Okay, I'll use your word. You got projected.
Projected doesn't mean it's not incorporating just throw. Project just means you get pushed forward. There's two parts of that. There's the air, then there's the ground. Like I said earlier, the tumbling, the rolling, whatever that part of the crash would happen. Projecting is just what we call what happens to a pedestrian post-impact with a crash.
Okay, so a couple questions. If his arm, elbow took the brunt of that entire impact, how do you account for the fact that he didn't suffer a broken bone?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I don't know.
How do you account for the fact that he didn't have a fracture?
So that's also a
Objection.
good question.
Sustained.
How do you account for the fact that he didn't even have a bruise on the arm?
Objection.
That's sustained too.
These are all pretty good questions, guys. These are all pretty good questions. All right, let's re-summarize. All right, the car is going 25 miles an hour, 24 and a half, I think they said. The car is going 25 miles an hour, reverse. It hits John O'Keefe in a sideswipe, non-direct. The impact is on his arm. The impact causes him to maybe hit the curb, causes him to spin, and then causes him to project 30 feet with no indication in the snow that there was any disturbance to the snow, which would indicate that all 30 feet are in the air because there's no disturbance to the snow. And also this massive blow, which caused him to go 30 feet to his arm, did not break his arm, nor did it leave any bruising. Okay, I'm not a medical professional. I am not a medical professional, but you know, I have a feeling that this does not add up medically. I have a feeling that this does not make medical sense, or sense under physics, or basically any of the scientific disciplines, to be quite honest. So I don't know whether or not we want to call Harry Potter as an expert or something, because the Canton police apparently believe in magic. But you know, I'm having trouble with this under the rules of the natural world. Yep.
Approach.
Yes.
Don't see how that works up. Don't see how that's compatible with medicine. I mean, I'm not a doctor or anything, but that seems a little problematic. Don't really believe that one. I mean, Harry Potter could explain apparition. He's a master of that. He knows how to apparate things. So he could tell us how maybe that's what happened. Much like the chief of police apparated in the Sallyport. Maybe John O'Keefe also apparated. That explains it. All right, guys, I figured it out. He went through a wormhole. Okay, he went through a portal. All right, there was a sudden accumulation of dark matter and dark energy, all localized in just this one instance in this place. Okay, and the dark matter, dark energy that all sort of clumped together all at once created a spike in gravitation, which caused him to be attracted at the exact same instance the car hit him. Okay, there was just a spike in gravity that direction, because suddenly dark matter black hole wormhole portal formed, and he fell through that / was attracted by that / whatever. That's what happened. It was the dark matter portal, man. That was the dark matter portal that he flew through. That explains a lot, man. I've cracked the case. We're all set. Dark matter. Dark matter. The dark matter's turning the frogs gay. Okay. Good. Breathe. 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 Have you ever played the game Portal? So it's like this. The portal gun is real. And the Canton police have one. And it was accidentally deployed. That's what happened. Yeah.
May I inquire, Your Honor?
Yes.
The truth is, Trooper Paul, you know, having investigated auto pedestrian accidents in the past, that John O'Keefe's injuries do not look anything like an automobile pedestrian accident, do they?
Yes, they do.
They do, really.
Isn't it true, Trooper Paul, you came to these opinions and conclusions because Trooper Proctor told you to come to these opinions and conclusions in furtherance of his investigation?
That is not true.
That's why you have these opinions and conclusions that just don't make sense, correct?
That is not true.
And you're just trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Action.
Sustained. All right, jurors will take.
Well, I guess that's the end of that testimony. 3 hours. 2.5 hours of stupid. I think we all just need to sit here for a moment. And just take a moment to refresh ourselves. We need a moment to decompress. Hold on. I need a friend. Hold on 1 second, please. I need a friend. Hold on. Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone. My name is Callie. And I'm a bee fish. I go buzz, buzz, buzz in the ocean. Buzz, 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 swimming around. Buzz, 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 I'm Callie, the bee fish. Callie the bee fish. Yeah, I make everything better, everybody. It's all okay. I'm used to things that don't make sense. I'm a bee that's also illegally a fish. I'm a bee that's legally a fish because the state of California says so. I'm illegally a bee fish. Look at my hat. My hat is great. And I swim through the ocean because I'm a bee fish. See, I go buzz through the ocean because I'm a bee fish. Also, I'm a freshwater fish. I'm a freshwater fish that swims in the ocean. And if you're thinking to yourself that doesn't make sense, don't worry about it. I'm a bee that's a fish. Logic doesn't have any place in over here. So I'm well familiar with these waters, everybody, and I can tell you this testimony's some bullshit. Doesn't make any logical sense. I don't get it. It's stupid. I'm a bee fish. Bzzz. Well, thank you, bee fish. Thank you, bee fish, for that expert opinion. I really value your opinion more than I value whatever expert we just watched is. It is okay. It is okay. Bee fish and I will be all right. Everything will be all right. Everything will be okay, guys. It's fine. There's no problem here. Everything is great. Eh. I go buzz, buzz, buzz in the ocean. Buzz, 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 swimming around. Buzz, 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 I'm Callie, the bee fish. Callie the bee fish. All right. Callie is here. Callie is here. All right, let me read some of your super chats that have been coming in while we've been talking, because I don't know that I've necessarily acknowledged them all, and now would be a good time as we're trying to wrap up this stream. And if you'd like to, send me a few bucks, I would appreciate it. This is my job. It's my sole time thing, and your financial support makes a huge difference, so I would really appreciate it. Plus, we have some cool merch, as I showed you earlier. We do have the official, some of you guys may not have seen the merch, but I will show you the merch as best as I can. We have some cool, well, that's not what I want at all. No. Hold on. I will show you the merch for those of you who don't see it, because we got some cool Canton related stuff as best as I can display it on this interface without readjusting everything. So this is our merch store. If you follow the pinned link, it will take you there, and we got some cool merch. We got, personally, I like this one personally. We got this Uncivil Law slogan mouse pad, learning from the misfortunes of others. So you got this mouse pad both in 18 by 16 and the larger 36 by 18 size. So you got gigantic mouse pad. I think that's pretty cool. You can check that out. Then, of course, we have the limited edition Canton CSI sticker, which features a picture of a paper bag and a solo cup on the badge. And that comes in various sizes that you can get if you like that kind of thing. So limited edition Canton CSI badge. We also have a glass cup. We have the glass solo cup for evidence collection. As you can see from this wonderful thing, it is property of the Canton PD. As you can see there in the corner, it is a beautiful evidence collection cup, and it can be yours for all your evidence collection needs. And we have this one, the Taint Team Data Scrubber mug with Callie the Bee Fish on it, so you can be part of the Taint Team if you like that. And we got some other cool stuff. We also, of course, have a Callie the Bee Fish sticker. This is a large one, and it comes in various sizes. You can also get the 5.5 inch by 5.5 inch sticker if you want massive Callie. It's a holographic sticker, so it shines and stuff. And you can put it on like your notepad or on your laptop. How cool is that? That's pretty cool, man. I'm just saying, man. That's some good stuff. And we have some other stuff that you can buy. That's all fun. We also have, let's see. We have this one that I designed somewhere. Where is it? Where is my merch thing? Where's the t-shirt? We had a t-shirt that is somehow not being displayed right now. I'll have to go fix that, because we had a t-shirt that had like the evidence collection tools, but apparently is not being displayed right now for some reason. Let me see if I can fix that real fast and see why it's not being displayed, because that is annoying. No, I don't need you to see my private end there. So let's go to this and see what's going on. Products. Oh, it's unlisted. Why is it unlisted? Oh, that's dumb. Yeah, it's just, oh, is this mine or? No, that's not mine. That's why it's unlisted. Where's the other one? Where's my shirt that I designed? Where's the shirt that I designed? The evidence, where's the evidence tools that I designed? Where's that shirt? And it's not apparently available for sale for some reason. I'm gonna apologize, but hey, whatever. Yeah, the tool set shirt. Yeah, we had a shirt that had like the CSI collection tools in a shirt, and I designed it myself, and for some reason it's just not there, and I'm very annoyed. That sucks. You can see it. I can't even see it. It's not even being displayed on my dashboard. Oh, there it is. There's the shirt. Okay. All right. So, all right. Fair enough. So we do have this shirt hypothetically for sale. We have the Canton PD evidence collection tool shirt in black. You can see that it's got your forensic tools with a picture of a leaf blower, a rake, a shovel, and a push broom. So we have got that shirt that's available for sale. And you can look very swag with your evidence collection t-shirt if you like. It comes in a variety of sizes and colors for all your evidence collection needs. And I hope you enjoy that. All right, so you can check out my merch shop. All right, let me read your super chats now. It was there. I just scrolled by a bunch of times. Yeah, maybe I did. Maybe I just didn't see it a whole bunch of times. A little temporary blindness, but whatever. Fair enough, Yeah, I couldn't see it, but you guys could. That's fair enough. Truth Seeker gave $19.99. Thank you very much for the super chat. Barberton Daisy gifted 5 gift memberships, and Alan Parker, longtime supporter of the channel, gifted 20 gift memberships. Thank you, Alan, for your continuing support, and thank you, Barberton. Littlefoot became an uncivilian. Littlefoot gifted 1 gift memberships. Hater Guy gifted $2 to say he's testifying to this in front of the jury. Physics with F-I-Z-Z. Physics. That's the best explanation. It's physics with an F. I'm here for it. I suppose we could ask him if he knows what natural philosophy is, but he probably doesn't know that term. For those of you who are not getting the joke, natural philosophy is a very old term for physics. Kevin Snow gave, it became an uncivilian. Mama 6, $20 said, Kurt, I think Higgins and John got into a fight over the text. That would make a lot of sense. Tall Skinny Geek gave $5 to say stuff means on the stand in that moment. I wasn't prepared to exhaustively list the considerations. I don't know why he wouldn't say that. Fair enough. Moniker002 has been a member for 44 months. Maggie for $19.99 said, just started from the beginning. I'm enjoying these streams. I'm not sure enjoyment is necessarily the word I'd pick, but we appreciate you here. Speedily became an uncivilian. Tall Skinny Geek said, when you lifted the weights, what happened to the momentum of the total system? Hopefully you were walking, since that can't be calculated. Good question. Unclear what happened to the weights I was lifting and what happened to the momentum relative thereto. I don't know. I'm not an expert. Britt Colmer for $4.99 said, we all know when this hard plastic hits soft flesh, the hard plastic shatters and flies all over the place. Yep. Tall Skinny Geek said, beefish, also known as a fee, is a common sight in California. Maximum Bacon for $20 says, why the sustained objection about lack of evidence to support his impact theory? Form seem fine. Missing injury or evidence of impact seem applicable. I don't know the judge's rulings, and I've long since stopped trying to understand them because a lot of them don't make sense. And Lily Smith gifted $5 to say, enjoyed the stream a lot. Well, I'm glad you did. And thank you all for your super chats and for your kind support for all of you guys. And if you haven't hit subscribe already, now would be an excellent time to do that. So you can hit our subscribe button. We do have a video coming out today at 4:15, I believe. I'm going to go ahead. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and set up the Premiere, and then I'm going to redirect you to my own Premiere because that would be a logical thing to do. So I'm going to do that. So we can talk a little bit while I'm setting that up because that would make logical sense. Technically, if the weights go back to where they begin, the total work done in that system is 0. You are correct. You are absolutely correct. Yeah, if the weights wind up back where they were, then the total amount of work is 0. You are correct. But it didn't feel that way to me. And, well, whatever. What can you do? All right, so I'm gonna set this as a premiere, set up premiere, change it to the intro I like. Someone was complaining the other day that the intro was too long for 2 minutes. Bite me is all I have to say to that. It's like the calming intro is calming. It's like, we've been waiting so long. What's with the intro? It gives people a chance to join, man. What's not to love? You'll get complaints about anything as a creator. That's what you need to understand. You cannot make everyone happy, and it's foolish to try. All right. Okay, guys, the setup is good for today. The premiere is set up for 4:15. This should automatically direct you over there, so make sure to go ahead and give that video a like, and I hope you enjoy the edited video for today. I've been Uncivil Law. Until later, my friends, I hope all's well. Cheers, my friends, for now, and goodbye.